Guess who's Blizzak? Salute to everyone in the building, and I appreciate everyone who's turning up. It's your boy Falcon Blizzak back again. Today is the Tuesday self refinement live stream. So, if you haven't seen by now, I'm trying to split the live streams for different focus. So Fridays will be the typical Black and British, where we try to speak about UK particular issues. Today, Tuesdays, I want it to be more inclined with my aspirations for self improvement, physical, mental, spiritual self improvement. Physical pertains to health, fitness, self appearance, which I think is involves influence over others, pride in yourself, your self esteem, mental self improvement, learning, which applies to skill sets, knowledge that could either branch into career and business. And then there's spiritual self improvement, which pertains to self mastery, understanding oneself, which I think is what this live stream falls under today. Okay, so salute to everyone. This is going to be one of those live streams where I have to probably go on a bit of a long one, but I'm trying to keep it succinct as possible. Please give me a one if the sound is good. Salute to everyone in the building. So this live is going to be about, in a nutshell, why I think Black British men should either not pursue or at least think twice about pursuing the typical lone wolf lifestyle, right? The typical mgtow lifestyle, you know. So with this live stream, first of all, we're going to go down memory lane so you understand my origins as a creator. I'll give reasons why Black British men in particular don't need to go to such measures. And we will talk about the links between loneliness and ill health. And unfortunately, probably men who have also succumbed to that. Okay. But it's still a complex subject. So I'm going to try my best to give it the type of articulation that I think is required. Also, at the end, I'll try to timestamp this, right? So it's easier to go back to. And also, of course, when I'm done, I'm going to open up the live calls. I'm going to be as quick as possible so I don't keep you up too late. So feel free to jump on and speak about your personal experiences, okay? So I'll need to include a lot of things in this live to cover my bases. So I'm going to try and include everything. But again, salute to everyone in the building. If you want to support the show and what we're trying to do, please do like, definitely comment in the chats and below this video after the live stream. Super chat if you are able to, because of course that will do all sorts of wonders for everyone involved. Keep notes as well, because I'll be opening up the lines in a bit. Okay. So I see the usual suspects in the building, man. Salute to all of you. I'm going to shout you out. I'm going to come back to the live. I just need to focus. So it's right now at the beginning. So it's like the real knowledge of what I want to get out is clear, because I know we are in a space, or unfortunately, we're in a space where a lot of people are kind of extreme, and it's very hard to understand or decipher anything that comes in between that. Okay. So first of all, why do I say the quote unquote MGTOW lone wolf lifestyle isn't for Black men? I'm going to try and do this in 3 exhibits. Okay. So exhibit 1, I want to talk about the loneliness. I want to talk about loneliness and its links to early death or health issues. Okay. So first of all, let me bring up this article by the BBC. Again, this was a topic actually that someone brought to mind, because a lot of people were talking about how it seems that a lot of Black men in the UK, we are seen by ourselves on the streets alone, whereas everyone else seems to be, operating as a unit, as a family or whatever, So I think this is a very important topic as well as it pertains to health and fitness. Okay, so first up, I want to read this BBC article, and it's pretty typical stuff. I think a lot of us know this, but I just want to refresh your mind. Again, I'll be as brief as possible. So this article says Black people more lonely than general population, says new study in spring. So it says black people are more likely to feel lonely than the general population, according to new research. Data from the Mental Health Foundation suggests 1 in 3 black people have experienced feelings of loneliness. That's not surprising. That's compared to the general population, where 1 in 4 have reported loneliness some or all of the time. 1 in 3 people are aged. 1 in 3 people aged 16 to 24 also said they experienced loneliness. So 16 to 24. A spokesperson for the foundation says racism and social inequality could contribute to these higher rates. It surveyed 6,000 people across the UK. Okay, so I mean, this person is, I guess, the at the heart of the article. But you know, it's no brainer. We understand it. You know, we know there is a lot of loneliness now, potentially post pandemic as well, right? So it goes through how loneliness happens, starts with yourself, etc. So that is the gist, or that is setting the pace for this topic. Okay. But let me go to nitty gritty, man, because like some of you are saying in the chat, I've spoken a lot about being a lone wolf. I've spoken a lot about how men should live alone. You know, I've got a free ebook about monk mode. So check that out if you haven't. And I think, you know, this is the typical stuff that's going to come out of an introverted type of person like myself. Okay. So this is not about, and, you know, feel free to call me out if you think some of what I'm saying has not been consistent. You know, I'm definitely not a hypocritical person. And so this is why I'm going to use this stream to basically catapult this talking point. Okay. So, yes, I've spoken about being a lone wolf, and I believe every man should live alone. The key thing about me is that I've always made it clear. I don't know if you guys remember my day oneers. If you're in here, man, I hope you can recall. As a person who might speak about being a lone wolf and speak about monk mode and living alone, I've always declared the fact very openly that I always want kids, namely a son. You know, and I've always been very open about this fact. And obviously, having kids, that's going to mean cultivating some sort of family. And that is a whole nother discussion that I think a lot of guys around these spaces are just not interested in going into, because it opens up a can of worms that I think we need to go through in this live stream. When you come on, you know, feel free to talk your points. So basically, we're going to quickly go down a trip down memory lane with regards to my origins. Let me see if I can actually share my older. Let me share my older videos so we can kind of talk over the mentality and everything else. Let's see. Yeah, you can see. So yeah, this is my channel as it existed 4 years ago. Okay. So for those that don't know, these aren't actually my first videos from back in the day. My first videos, if anyone remembers, was actually a roast to the mgtows. It was a roast to the mgtows. I remember that video very well because I took a lot of care in making the thumbnail. I used like some canned beef roast thing to kind of inflame the point, because from my point of view, I saw the whole kind of complaining aspect of that group to be basically victimhood, to be honest with you. You know, so I've always known that the only way forward for someone like me is a self-improvement mentality. And this is why I differentiated my iconography, my like logos and stuff, to be yellow pill. Because I knew right away that the RP, as much as you can get a lot of sound, logical bits of information, it still left people in the malaise. It still left people kind of stagnant from my point of view. Right. So I started out kind of dissing the mgtow. Then after that point, I mean, to be fair, a lot of my older videos are hidden or deleted straight up because, man, a lot of them were not. A lot of them were kind of dusty. I know they were like, like classics, but I had to clean up a little bit. But after the roast, I wondered, why am I roasting these people? I'm roasting people. I'm roasting people that seem to be quite similar to myself. At that time, 2018, that's when I started this channel. I lived alone. I was single and freshly broken up. And I was definitely in a red pill rage. So I was like a perfect candidate for that movement, it seems, right? So then after a while, I guess I just thought, let me just incorporate that abbreviation because I'm more or less talking about the same stuff that these guys might talk about, living alone, other health stuff, other introverted, introspective stuff, solitude, meditation, and obviously associated female nature type videos too, right? And I did that for two reasons. One of which was that my content was in line with how a lot of the people who felt that way or were inclined in that way, I was making content that they were making or they'll be interested in. Right. The second thing was that quite shrewdly, it was just the easier way to reach people, or reach people of a like mind. I remember back then, man, you just put the abbreviation in your titles or after your name, it causes a stir in some groups, in some chats, So I understood that it was a way to reach people. Right. So when we go through my older stuff, of course, there was the female nature stuff, the how to deal with relationships, all that type of stuff that a lot of us deal with when we're in that stage of life. But a lot of my stuff was, I would call it introspective. I'm always trying to, I've always had the angle of self-improvement. But the thing is that I understood or I saw quite easily in the metrics that when I speak namely about self-improvement or things that I think will really help men in general, younger men especially, it wouldn't get the same amount of views. But when I spoke about some issue regarding female nature or anything regarding women and stuff like that, dating, it got thousands of views. Now there's some outliers like this video, which is one of my favorites, which is why you're hated for no reason at all. Back then I could make, today I can't make a video with title like that that's going to resonate or reach people. You know what I mean? So a lot of content creators knew that if they just put the abbreviation mgtow in their titles, it's going to reach a whole nother audience, right? And it's a shame that, yes, some people just used the term for their own end. Some people using it to sell products, do proper business-like moves with it, right? Are you following me? I just want to kind of sink through, but let me also big up the chat, man. What are you saying in the chat? Captain Toast in the building. He says even the Bible said it's not good for man to be alone. I appreciate the one, guys. Everyone said the sound is good. Perfect. We got Diego Ife in the house. Good to see you. We got Thomas Demahan in the building. We've got Aaron B in the building. Salute to everyone. Okay, so that is my quick origin story. The yellow pill. I came in knowing that I had to speak about self-improvement, and those are the things that really mattered to me. I think while being in red pill rage, man, the thing is that even in my previous relationship at that time, it didn't end in a bad way. So I'm only feeling what most people will feel. They'll feel gloomy after a long-term relationship, right? So even at that point, I think it was so contagious. It's so contagious to just run the crowd and say all sorts of craziness and talk about female nature all day. right? So that's just the beginning, the origins. Absolutely. Listen, men must experience living alone. Why? Because you're gonna live your life to the fullest. You're gonna have the greatest space to focus. The greatest freedom you can experience is in your own place. You can cultivate your own culture and your own way of life. You do things in your own on your own terms. I mean, what other pros are there living alone, chat? If you can help me out. Definitely these things it's always required. I always recommend it. And then we can go into things like monk mode. So for a temporary period of time, um, basically cleansing your mind, not seeking things, go in within yourself. I know it sounds corny and cheesy, but these things really do help you to be focused. And I think that's what a lot of people really want, is just focus and clarity. So I can never backtrack on these things because it's always been a part of me. Talking about learning martial arts, talking about meditation, testosterone, these things are all part and parcel, right? But that doesn't mean forever, you know. And I've mentioned many times in all of my videos where I talk about being a lone wolf, I've mentioned that there is a great weakness. And the reason why I aim this topic at Black British people in particularly, or Black British men in particularly, is because we are already a small marginalized minority. If we are truly going to practice the ethos of what this group is trying to do, which is basically be even more aloof and off grid, it puts us as individuals in a much more weakened situation. No support network, no one to communicate with, and people scoff at the idea. Oh, you need someone to talk to. Look, man, I've demonstrated through my videos. I've shown you my lifestyle. I've literally shown you my homes. I've talked the talk. Oh, sorry, walked the talk. You know what I mean? So I'm one of the, like, prime people to be able to speak critically about certain things like this. When you have no one to communicate with, we're gonna go through an article in a bit as to what are the negative effects of loneliness and why it can also lead to death at a young age. You're prone to a poor lifestyle like porn addiction. You might not have motivation to stay fit. I've heard back in the day, man, when I was in some chat rooms and stuff, some guys were actually of the mindset that going to the gym and keeping fit was only to peacock to women. Can you imagine that? So a lot of people just, it can, I'm not saying it always will, but it can support a lazy lifestyle. I remember back in the day, this was probably around this time, when I was doing around this time, 2018, man, I had sciatica. Who's had sciatica before? Press one if you've had sciatica, if you know where it is. I had sciatica. Salute, Matt Gamer. Good to see you. Who knows what sciatica is? Sciatica is the worst back pain you can ever get. And it can come randomly. Randomly. You don't even have to do anything crazy like lifting heavy weights or a heavy load. It can come at any point in time. And I had it. Yeah, there's a long nerve in your backside going down your hamstring and hip. And it's the worst. It's basically the worst back pain you can ever have. And I was very immobile for the first time in my life. I felt so vulnerable, and I was all alone, very much isolated. Now, I'm not saying, oh, don't, make sure you're not lonely. So so you have someone who can nurse you back to good health when you're sick. That's not what I'm saying. But I wonder if people who will only, who will be so brazen and so foolhardy to just say, yeah, living alone, if they think about those times when they get sick, especially as we get older, you know, like I remember walking down the street. Back then, I was living in East London. I remember walking down the street, man, at night to go and get some food, and I was walking like half a centimeter, like a kiddie steps. And there was some homeless woman at the side. She literally said to me, "Oh, where's your girlfriend?" Like, it was mad. But what I realize is that a lot of people won't be this honest and open about the this aspect of living alone. And some people will talk about, for example, oh, I'll have a maid if that ever happens. And it's like, really, who's going to get a maid? And if you're going to get a maid, do you really think that they might not F you up if they felt like it? You know, it's food for thought, and it's things that people need to think about. It's things that a lot of people who want to promote a certain lifestyle are not totally honest about. And I'm not virtual signaling by trying to be honest, but I'm just, because this channel is more of a personal endeavor originally, right? So I just think that I have a duty to be as transparent as I can be for a lot of you guys, especially my day ones, to give you a holistic, full view of the truth of this thing. Captain Tozen says, "Pump and dump guys say that." I mean, who like? And trust me, man, this is not me scoffing at anyone's lifestyle. But the thing is that when we start to get a following, there is a level of responsibility that needs to be allowed for, at least from my point of view. You know, like getting a maid, like the fact that you need a maid highlights the point that when you get into your older age, you are probably should not be living alone at that point. The fact that in getting a maid, you are hiring another able-bodied person to do things for you, which should tell you that it's probably not natural or in your best interest to be living alone at 65, 70 years old. You know, so okay, that's exhibit one. I'm trying to be clear because I don't want this to overrun. I know it's late, but I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. I'm going to drop the line in a bit. So that's exhibit one. Yeah, exhibit one is loneliness and its links to ill health. Now let me bring up following that article. Let me bring up some stats about loneliness, basically. Okay, let me share this screen. What screen is that? Okay, let me share this screen. Okay, so this is a whole article, a pretty good one to be honest, on loneliness. Right. So I don't need to go through the symptoms of loneliness. We all know what it is. The most important point is that there is a risk of a premature death. So I'm going to get to that in a sec. So negative side effects of loneliness: depression, an obvious one; dementia and Alzheimer's disease, something a lot of people don't know. But I imagine that when you don't really communicate with people a lot, I'm sure parts of your brain are getting atrophied, right? Like when you don't train a muscle, it gets weaker. Sometimes, look, when I was in my deeper, like forced isolation days, man, it's like when I start going into conversation, I just can't, I'm not that as fluid as I normally would be. right? Number 3, substance abuse, probably to cater for the depression. Number 4, chronic stress, unhealthy relationships, suicidal thoughts, which is probably a common one as well. You know, some people who feel like life shouldn't be this way. Why am I so alone? You know, antisocial behaviors. We've spoken about risk of a premature death, memory problems, again linked with the mind, memory, retention, poor decision making skill, trouble sleeping. But I want to jump to premature death because I think let's understand why it's linked to a premature death. Let me share one more screen. Okay, it's probably hard to read, but this one is basically why do lonely people die earlier? So an excerpt from this article. This mental health problem has been shown to translate into physical health. A well-known review of research found that loneliness, the feeling of being lonely, social isolation, and living alone were risk factors for early mortality, with an increased likelihood of death ranging from 26 to 32%. A lot of people are going to say cap, or a lot of people might say, oh, there's an agenda to this, that, the other, but this is proven stuff. You know, the key point is that some estimates say that loneliness is a greater risk factor for premature mortality than obesity. So from, you know, being like diabetic and having insulin resistance, far from overweight, loneliness can have the same risk factor and is comparable to the risk of smoking. Some research indicates that loneliness is associated with an increased risk of heart attack, Alzheimer's disease, as discussed, and high blood pressure. But how? Some researchers say our body's physiological response to loneliness is based in evolution. Humans are simply built to survive in groups. Some research has even shown that married people live longer. So that is a point we're going to have to talk about here as well. There are a number of ways to combat loneliness. Here are just a few. Okay, so it's trying to correct it. So, I mean, press 1 if you think that's cap. Press 2 if you think you can agree with that loneliness is a risk factor. And I guess we're talking about loneliness for a long time, number of years. You might start to lose your mind, Alzheimer's disease, you're forgetting things, you're feeling depressed. Okay, some people, Darth Low IQ, I guess, salute to you, says 1. Diego Harry in the building, he says 1.5, so half agree. 1 and 2, sorry, Falcon. So are you 1.5? I hear that. 2, 1.5. Now, yes, I understand. When I do my polls and stuff in the community tab, I know that most of us are introverts, right? Most of us are proud, aloof type of people. Those are 1.5s. This is good. This is good. You know, a lot of us are proud of being alone and we would swear by it. But I guess we're talking about, say, 10, 20 years from now. Will our mind still function the same? And again, this is someone who's been living alone for many years. You know, I'm not married, I don't have kids, and I've been very open about all of that. So, okay, fair enough. A lot of people aren't buying it. Okay, that's cool. Even though it seems to be researched very well. Okay, I get it. But that's exhibit 1. Okay, the risk of loneliness. Exhibit 2 now will be a bit more controversial. See, one of my biggest motivators for making the Black British focused live streams was that a lot of us, I felt, were using American statistics to prove points. Do we actually have the same issues as Americans? And I guess more controversially, are British divorce stats, so that's pertaining to marriage, are they the same as the USA? And a key reason why I ask this is, again, because if you listen to a few people, they will throw out all sorts of random stats for divorce. Now, I'm not an advocate for marriage. I don't have any reason to be at this point. I do believe there needs to be a lot of reform. I know this year, the UK introduced no fault divorce. And from what I understand about it, they introduced that to ease the familial pain of a divorce, all right, to make it a bit more easier, But I look at the contract. I look at the idea of marriage in a modern society, and yes, I can't buy it just yet. But my thing is that if you don't even know what the problem is, or if you are being fed false information about divorce rates, then how are any of you in the right position to make the right assumption? You know. So when we look at UK divorce rates, no need to bring up on the screen. I've showed it quite a few times in previous streams. The divorce rate seems to be consistently somewhere between 35 to 42%. 35 to 42% divorce rates in the UK, loosely speaking, right? But some people in America will throw out things like 50%, 70% divorce rate. You might not, that's why you should not get married, So I think the first thing is to identify whether the stats are correct, what people are fearing, if that is a genuine concern, right? And again, am I saying go and get married and toss everything to the wind just because you might be lonely, you might have potential health issues? No, absolutely not. I know this might be a complex topic to digest, because I know a lot of people prefer to just be on one side, and function in the black and white in a black and white way. And I get it, because it's easier. The best content creators are just one-sided all the way through, right? But unfortunately, I can't operate like that. I need to cover all bases and see if things are true. And this is why I can't really do the echo chamber. I can't really fall in line and follow certain movements, And again, for your info, I'm not married. I don't have kids. I'm not in a cohabitating setup, So I pretty much embody these ideologies to a degree, or I'm the perfect candidate, And a lot of us talk about society, community. We talk about social economic positioning. Surely we understand that. Surely we can agree that the initial ideas of marriage is to create strong families, right? And if it's to create strong, wholesome families, then that will lead to a stronger, better society, right? Let me see what you guys are saying, chat. I know, Labour, before you too long. Look, in about 10 minutes, I'm going to throw down the link. I just need to throw this out there. Darflow IQ says, I'm an introvert, but I had to learn extrovert behavior. It's hard to get respect without it. Hey, absolutely. I've got a few videos on introverts, and I really believe, and this is why I want these Tuesday streams to be focused on, these type of things, like the introvert stuff that I was talking about in the past, minimalism, all of that. Like, as a martial artist, as a black belt, a competitive fighter, like, these are things that just took me out of my shell. You have no opportunity. You have no other way but to come out of your shell under those type of pressures and circumstances. You know what I mean? So while I'm a proud introvert too, like most of you, I understand a lot of our weaknesses. A lot of us have a bad tendency to overlook the pros of an extrovert, for example. Or, we think we are kind of the superior type because we are more thinking people. We are more content with being alone and being out, within ourselves, But I believe there's pros and cons to everything. But let me continue. I digress. So that's exhibit 2. When it comes to relationships, this is one of the main reasons why I can't go forward with making female content type of videos. And I've made them all, trust me. I've made them all. And I don't really shy away or back away from them. I've made them all links with Lilith and Eve and makeup and all of that. But the thing is that, you know what? Again, it's easy after a breakup or maybe after a divorce, it's easy to align with some type of movement, just like the womanist ideology. It's very contagious. It's very emotionally driven. You know, I don't know if you guys ever experienced, like, you might have had a partner who is like, oh, those feminists are so crazy. I'll never be like them. I'll never be like them. But then she just goes out for some social event with her feminist friends, and then she might just come back speaking just like them. You know, it's very, very contagious because it works off of emotion, you know. And for my thing is that my past failings in relationships, etc., I will always blame myself and take full responsibility. Why? Because I saw the red flags, to be honest with you. I saw the red flags. You know, and I think stereotypically a lot of us introverts are good, we are good at reading character. A lot of the truth is a lot of us guys see the red flags, but what do we say? We just say, oh, but the ass is fat though. You know, we overlook the problems. I used to get a lot of people in my chats say things like, um, oh, I was married to her for 10 years and I got 2 kids from she gave me 2 kids, but she's crazy. And whenever I hear things like that, I just think, surely you knew some aspect of her was quote unquote crazy before you put 2 kids in her. You know, a lot of guys just let it slide, like, oh no, no, no. It's all good. You know, you're getting the back rub, you're getting the food. Maybe she's ironing and folding your clothes, and you just think, don't worry, don't worry about the fact that she guzzles a liter of spirits every night. Oh, she's not gonna be she's not gonna go crazy off of that. You know, so for my past relationship failings, I always blame myself, and this is why I can come to the court with, or this court as in YouTube, with self improvement in mind. How can I be better? You know, I'll be honest with you. A lot of people won't be honest with you. In my relationship, I know when I fell off. You know, I know when I've got lazy. You know, for key things like not keeping your word. You know, you might say, "Oh, we're going to go out here this weekend. We're going to do this. We're going to do that." Saturday comes around and you're just sitting there with a control pad in your hand, uh, feet on the couch. You know, we need to also fess up to those moments too, as men. And at the end of the day, we can't control what anyone else does but ourselves. That's my angle anyway. And I know that probably pisses a lot of people off because it's like, oh no, they are the bad side. They've done all the bad things, and that's I'm sorry, that's not the full picture though, is it? You know, and I think accountability is a lot of these content creators that preach certain methodologies and ideologies, they don't keep it 100 when it comes to accountability, man. When you just start blaming people, you become the victim. You know, you're becoming what you claim is the bad side, right? But I hope I'm making sense because again, I just need to express this in a live stream. I'm going to open up the streams in a sec. I think also, like, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, we understand what that is, and we know somewhere in that pyramid there is a need for quote unquote relationships to some degree, whether that is intimacy or we understand that, and I think trying to avoid that is always going to be in vain. You know, and this is why when people do extreme things or say extreme stuff, like like when you quote unquote relapse from your no fap streaks, you're trying to do 100 days of no fap. Well, because you're trying to go against nature, that's why you can't. That's why that's not possible. You know, people who swear, no, I'm just gonna go for casual hookups. I'm not gonna get connected. I'm not gonna get attached to women. But low key, a lot of people do because again, this is nature. This is thousands of years of a hormonal release and effect. And again, just like the housemaid example, it's telling of what a man truly thinks when he says, "Oh, no, oh, you can't trust women. Women are this, women are that." But then a lot of the guys will brag about, smashing women. Yeah, I just, I'm gonna just pump and dump, and yeah, but you know, there is still a relationship there, right? So I don't know about you guys. For me, man, I understand. I just feel like, look, family, and I know it's a feeling, and I think it's logic, to be honest. Family is, as cheesy as it sounds, family is quote unquote everything. So, someone asked a great question in the chat. Leo Mill says, Falcon, may I ask respectfully, do you like white women? That's a funny question. Um, but what I'm saying is, like, when our parents die, when our siblings go away, it was supposed to be a family that was there to defend you from the loneliness. And this is where, evolution played its part, right? It's kind of shown us that loneliness is an unnatural situation. And I think, although most people in the chat will say, it's not that bad, I half agree with the research that loneliness is bad for health in the future. I wonder if most of the people who said 1.5 in the chat, if you've actually lived alone for, I would say, up to 5 years. I wonder if you've experienced that. I'm not talking about flatmates. I'm not talking about living in some, far-flung room in your parents' house. I'm talking about actually living alone and thinking in 5 years that is the perfect state to be in. Someone in the chat says, I disagree with the statement that families, my friends have become my family and my family have become my friends. Hey, I 100% get that. I've spoken many times about the requirement sometimes to cut off some members of the family, and I know that's dysfunctional. Like, when I think back, I know it's dysfunctional, but sometimes it has to happen, and I don't shy away from that. I'm not someone who just thinks, oh, blood is thicker than mud type of mentality. No, that's a goofball mentality. But I'm talking about for the fact that when it comes to us being in the vulnerable situations, vulnerable age, it's probably most likely going to be your family who have the heart to want to care for you. I'm not saying it always is the case, but I reckon when I'm on my deathbed in the hospital, if I have kids, there's a good chance that those kids will, based on, of course, there's many variables, but based on my upbringing, on how I raised them, and look, it might not be the case, but there's a good chance that they will make my life easier, as opposed to absolutely zero chance of that happening in the reality of shared loneliness at a vulnerable age. That's what I mean by family is everything. We all have been, to some degree, raised, prepped up. I know a lot of us aren't happy with our upbringing, but we've been raised by family. I know. Trust me, man. I know about umbrage. I know about family issues. Trust me, man. I am someone who, I didn't speak to my stepfather. We lived in the same house for a decade. I mean, when I say not speak, literally didn't say a word when I came in the house, when I saw him, avoiding and all of that. Trust me. And I can still validate that behavior. I felt like at like 15, that was probably something that I needed to do for just everyone's sake. So no violence occurs, you know? So I know about like doing things like that, but I also know the damaging effects. People who are so eager and so willing to cut off people in general, that's a dysfunctional trait. It is. And it kind of leads into the whole talking about communities and respect for one another. Well, when you're so quick to burn bridges, in a lot of cases over emotional instances, and you make that a habit, then who are you? What community are you trying to form? You can't get along with people, and that's what that means in some cases. I'm not saying all cases, but now that I'm wiser, older, I try to, cutting off people is the last thing, the absolute last measure for me. You know. So in Exhibit 2, I'm saying yes, quote unquote, family is everything, but I'm speaking from a Black British angle. Because a lot of us are second generation of the Caribbean, of Africa. We originally come from strong cultural backgrounds, and this is why it's it's needed to focus on Black British stuff, because we have a different reality to our uh, American brothers and sisters. So therefore, what happens over there and all of their statistics, it's not it's not gonna always involve or affect us. And I think America leads by a bad example. You know, our ancestral homelands have like minimal Western influence. Of course, there's colonialism, but a lot of the colonialism was, what did they call it? It was like in Nigeria, for example, there wasn't. It was ruled from afar. I forgot the term. So there was a chance for, there wasn't a big white population in the middle of Nigeria, for example, like South Africa. So there was a sense of the same culture, right? And Nigeria, for example, has, I don't know if it's really a 1% divorce rate that some people bring up, but it's going to be lower than 35 to 42%, most definitely. Indirect rule. Yeah, thanks, Diego. Indirect rule. So I would say just don't be robbed of your birthright based on other people's problems, other people's stats, other people's issues, you know. And this is why, to some degree, I salute the passport bros, because they at least be honest with themselves and they are looking for solutions. We can all laugh and joke and, some of these countries aren't going to cater for you like that, but at least they are trying to do something. They are trying to live up to their birthright. It's our birthright to want a family if you want. And if you don't want, I'm not going to be one that's going to roast you and try to shoehorn my mentality into you, because I think that's what happens in the opposite direction. And this is where it gets weird. When people, I'm someone who could easily if for example I had a friend who was saying, "Oh, I really want to get married, Falcon, man. I can't really live like you. I don't really want that lifestyle. I want this and that." I'm not gonna go back to him and say, "Oh, you're a simp. Oh, you're a purple pill. Oh, you are weak because you can't." No, I'm not trying to enforce my standards or my lifestyle on other people. As a man, I'm sure he understands the dangers and the risks. I can give that much information, but I'm not gonna do what some of the goofy people do, and they try to clown on men who wanna do certain things. Someone says the divorce rate is under 5% in Nigeria. Damn, you know. But yeah, that's exhibit 2. Do we have the same issues as Americans? What are the options, divorce rates, etc.? Is it the same? Exhibit 3 now, and then I'm going to open up the lines, and I'm going on for an hour, man. I apologize. I needed to get this out there. It's coming from the heart, to be honest. It's coming from the heart. But exhibit 3 for me, why the mgtow lifestyle, lone wolf lifestyle is not for Black British men, are the content creators. I'm not gonna be I'm not gonna name and shame, because I respect some of these content creators to some degree, but we've all seen a number of content creators who have preached a certain message, but then it's all been found out extensively that they've lived another life all this time. People collecting your funds, hundreds of thousands of pounds, preaching a certain lifestyle, but they don't live like that. that for me is a clear sign that, because the content creator really is the mover, is the pusher of a certain culture or an idea, the person who comes before you, on a channel. Again, it's a channel, it's a program. So if these people who are preaching lifestyle is not living the same life, the exact lifestyle that they preach, like, then it's flawed from the beginning. We could all say, oh yes, it's not a movement, it's an ideology, and everyone has their own idea of what it is. But again, look at, think about it for a sec. Loads of people who have, you know, just not lived up to what they've been saying. And a lot of people have been very crude about it, very, very bold, out there. Whereas, again, I'm not trying to say, oh, I'm better and I'm honest and I'm not trying to virtue signal, but I've made it clear with the whole yellow pill ideology is that this is something different. Like, I try to make a space where people can think for themselves, you know? I've always said even things like NoFap, something that we should discuss in the Tuesday live streams. Things like NoFap is good, but I think about NoFap in cycling, like cycling creatine or something like that. I don't envision a NoFap. I don't envision why envision a life where you are, as an adult male, abstinent. For what? You know, there is a there is a balance in life. I always try to speak of that. There are cycles in life that should be respected. And of course, with content creators, we've seen a lot of content creators who have uh, lived this lifestyle and who have unfortunately passed away in this lifestyle. I was thinking of making the thumbnail, but no, I think that's going too far. I don't want to, respect to the dead and all of that. But we have a lot of people who, preach a certain lifestyle or had this kind of lonely, aloof disposition, and ill health got them at a young age. And out of them, many black men who have had their life cut short in their 50s. Right? I remember a very big mgtow guy who his last video is still up on YouTube when he was dying of cancer. And he was, uh, don't quote me, but I reckon from what he was saying, he was pretty much alone. I think he moved to the Philippines. He had no one to kind of support him, no one to care for him. And he's got his final video before his death, succumbing to an illness, is on YouTube. He was, it's like the camera was his only kind of support, which is sad. And I don't mean that in a negative way. But when we bridge the gap between loneliness and ill health, something tells me that if we came or had what our ancestors had, some sense of a functioning family, that will bring us more better health. I know some of you say that health loneliness thing is a cap. Okay, cool, but surely you can't just say it's cap just because you think it's cap. I could easily say the same thing, but I think I also use people's experience who are older than me, who are in the situation. A lot of people who have emailed me behind the scenes, man, and they've told me over the years. And it's funny, some of these guys were very strong mgtows, and they've told me, man, at 60 years old, I feel like a loser in life. I've lived a certain lifestyle. I went with it, and sadly, you can't get time back. You have to fully commit with what. This is another thing. If you want to believe in certain things, you need to fully commit into them 100%. The 50-50 lukewarm fence sitter, maybe, maybe not. No, you need to make a decision quite quickly, because you're already losing time to certain ideologies. And if you don't fully lean into it, you are just losing time. So I'm also, as a content creator, I'm also learning from a lot of people who contact me behind the scenes. Some people who've dissed me, hated me, come back around and say, I understand what you meant about self-improvement. I understand what you meant about, if you think that, oh, mgtows were complaining too much. Time will tell. And I think I saw in the chat, some of you were saying, yeah, mgtow fell off. And I think a lot of you are seasoned people. So you've probably been here 4+5 years. You've been around the block. You've heard different people's talking points and ideologies. And I think you, especially my audience, in my opinion, because I'm not on anyone's clique. So I think the people in the chat or the people that view my videos are really of the mind to know what is good and what is bad, or what is the best way and what is not. Now, obviously, I don't have all the answers, absolutely not. But a lot of you guys are making up your own mind, and I think it's been said, or I think the conclusion is that a lot of you guys don't want to live alone for the rest of your life without. And I've done a poll like just a week ago, and I keep doing these polls to kind of get the temperature. And a lot of you guys really do want like family. And a lot of you guys also don't know yet, which is equally kind of sad to me, because it's like these are things that and these are things that you align to. These are things you target and you prepare yourself for. You should know from an early age if you don't want kids, for example. You should know from an early age if you do want a household with family. So it's kind of sad for me to see that people are in this space where it's like, oh, I don't know. I've been very consistent, and I'll say very much wholeheartedly, as a so-called British Nigerian, a Nigerian who came from a big family, a proud family. I've made it very clear, and I don't care who roasts, I don't care who calls me a simp or this or that. I made it very clear from the beginning, and I don't lie about this, because at some point, yes, I want a kid. Absolutely. How that's going to happen? Sure, that is the question. What will it take? That is the question. But that is what I want, and that is what I'm going to get. Someone says I want at least 2 wives. But look, I'm going to open up the lines in a sec. I know I've said that like 15 minutes ago, and I apologize. I have to put this out there, okay? But of course, the elephant in the room, man, with all of this being said, is that the elephant in the room, I guess, is the women, right? And this is where a lot of people are making or are joining certain groups to go towards certain women, etc., etc. And I understand it. Trust me, I don't shame the guys. When we talk about it, I try to, make it a bit more rational, a bit more reasonable. And with all this being said, am I saying, okay, just be a simp, just download Tinder tonight and chase P all day, all night? No, that's not what I'm saying. So please listen. Should you live the rest of your life alone? If you want to. Yeah, if you want to. If you like it, I love it. Again, this is not me. I'm not exactly dictating, but I'm putting my thought out there as to why I think the lone wolf lifestyle doesn't benefit Black British men in particularly. Partly because of these stats, partly because I understand what it entails, partly because I know there's a lot of misinformation. A lot of people don't know what the truth is. And another sad reality is that a lot of people, or a sizable amount of people who are in these spaces, and it's been exposed many years ago, is that a lot of people haven't even experienced relationships. A sizable amount of people have not experienced relationships. So for me, it's like, where is the motivation to align yourself with a certain thing, a certain idea? Because I would imagine that most people have, most people seem to have been kind of shot down. You've been burnt, and I hate to use those cliche words. You've just had a bad experience, but you felt that experience, and then you've concluded that no, that's not the life that I want. You don't want to cohabitate again. You don't want to do all of that again. But for someone who hasn't experienced that, I just wonder, then how? Of course, you're not going to know what you want. Of course, your movements will be a bit fugazi. It will be a bit half-hearted, right? So, should you get married? Is that what I'm trying to say? If it serves you, go ahead and do that. But obviously, in all cases, I just say be aware of the negatives, and I'm sure you are, intelligent, mature enough to obviously take that into mind. But am I going to label someone, oh, you're a simp, you're this or that, you're a lesser man than me because you want some sort of family, you don't want to be living the rest of your life alone? Am I going to test or rate your manhood based on if you can live alone? Hell no. You know what? Something that a lot of people don't say is that there is actually a lot of skill. You need a lot of skill to actually um, be able to turn a person, a fully grown adult person, to be in alignment with you and your mentality and your way of life, and to have another human brain working with you. That is a skill. And that is a skill that I'm understanding that not a lot of people have. And that's not to shame, but there is a lot that goes into it, you know. But let me conclude now. What am I saying? What am I saying? We spoke the the ill health that can befall people who become lonely for a long time, and I agree with them. So I'm going to press two on my own thing. I agree that in time, things like depression will kick in, Alzheimer's disease will kick in, stress and risk of premature. I believe I have no reason to not to doubt this research. Right? If anyone has any counter research to that, feel free to bring it up when you come on. If you come on the line. But you should experience living alone. Yes, absolutely. You should experience monk mode. I've got a free ebook, 6-month monk mode. This is a loose rendition of what I do when I go into quote unquote monk mode, a 6-month transformation plan. It sounds corny to people who don't know what they're hearing, but yes, I believe in all of that. No fap and abstinence for a time, absolutely. As a fighter, as an athlete, I swear by no fap, even when I get like more people pointing fingers at me saying, no, you're it's cap. What are you talking about? There are no superpowers. You won't trust me. I know the difference. I feel the difference. It makes a difference. I just think that us second generation Black Brits, we are in a league of our own, and we should not be so quick to follow USA trends. I think our generation, we are in a phase of awakening, and then where we are asking questions whether we are supposed to remain here and build and create a strong legacy as Black Brits, or does it mean going back to ancestral lands where we have strong cultural ties with? So I'm going to drop the line. I've probably been all over the place. I hope I've made some sense. I hope you've still being with me. Salute to everyone in the building. I'm going to shout you out as I put the link in as well. So questions, I guess, that we can ask or answer when we go into the call-in, are the mgtow talking points, are they hated, or you've said Tao falling off? Personally, a lot of the original mgtow guys have transformed into, I don't know, maybe passport bros, or maybe like fresh and fit type of guys that they're just looking for skills or techniques to do certain things. I know a lot of the content creators, a lot of them have changed their stance, changed their content, where it almost seems like more relationship focused. So the question is, are the talking points outdated? Is it hypocritical for creators to say one thing but live another way? And I don't mind you naming names, it's all good. Another question could be, is America leading by example, leading by a bad example, and we are just following suit? Or feel free, if this is just simp talk and Falcon just wants in-house and is afraid of dying alone, I'm happy to hear any rebuttal, anything like that. So let me put in the link. I know it's late and I know I've labored before you so long, so apologies for that. But hey, okay. So the call-in thingamajig, the call-in link is in the chat room if you want to speak on the issue. Again, anything in relation to this issue would be good. What are your thoughts? On the loneliness aspect, are you lonely? How do you cope? Is it cap? Is loneliness cap? Stuff like that. One sec, let me just connect my. Every time I add my AirPods, man, it changes the mic to AirPods. Okay, that's all good. Okay, so we have Diego Ife in the building. Salute to you. Let me just change a few things 1 second. 1 sec. Let me shout out everyone. I know I've kind of missed everyone, but I see everyone in the building. KB Jones in the building. Good to see you. Inflated Ego, Dej, Billy the Goat in the building. Good to see you. Absolution, Antebellum, Black American. Good to see you. The marathon continues. Good to see you. Thomas Demahan in the building. Good to see you. A lot of people in the chat. I'm going to focus a bit more on the chat as well, but let's hear what Diego Ife has to say. He is the season 1 champion of the Black and British live streams. So salute to him. Let's see what Diego has to say about the topic at hand.
Yo, can you hear me? Testing 1 2 1 2. Can you hear me?
Sound is beautiful, man. How you doing this evening, bro?
I'm good, brother. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I can't complain, man. Another day,
Yeah.
Stream. Oh, yeah, sorry, I just need to mention to everyone. Friday's live stream will actually be this Thursday because I'm flying to Spain on Friday afternoon. So this Thursday is when we'll do the next live stream. Sorry. I just need to add that in before I forget.
Yeah, man. No worries, man. So interesting kind of introduction, sort of like overview so far. So why I said 1.5 is that when it comes down to sort of surveys, I don't think one should chuck out the baby with the bathwater. If there's lessons to be learned, by all means, you try to sort of, elicit or extract what you can. And where, of course, there may be need to kind of consider any gray area, then also likewise. So my take on it is when it comes down to that study, it's based on certain assumptions. All studies have to have assumptions inbuilt. So this is, I would say that they've possibly taken a sample size of people who may not have active lifestyles, may have,
that's a good point.
they may have had certain traumas. I think most people in life are subject to some form of trauma. So they perhaps have not had some sort of like diagnosis or some kind of therapy, which means that they carry it on. And a lot of people can attest to this. Certain memories that, or maybe traumatic or painful memories sometimes just randomly surface in your mind. So if you're not active and you feel a bit of an introvert, you might see other people who look like they're enjoying life more, and you now look at yourself and you wonder, why am I not like them? Then the culmination of all those factors may now lead to like long-term deep-rooted depression, if you get my point. There are several people who were both men and women who have got through a long life without being married, but and even in some cases having children, but what they've done is they've made sure that they have a sense of purpose.
That's a good point.
Understand? They
So, do you mean like the inventors and all these notable people who have
you've got
done great things in life?
Yeah, you got inventors, even people who, for example, might work in a community side of things, or it could be some kind of traveling educator. It might be somebody who decides to make themselves like a student of martial arts for the rest of their life. As long as the purpose is compelling enough, I do think it's possible. And then on top of that, I tend to find that the few people I've come across who are old and don't have children or family, they tend to have younger people gravitate to them that want to learn more from them. So almost in a way, they become surrogate parents or even surrogate grandparents. You see my point?
Right.
So
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that, and this is me sort of, I can't say 100%, but I question the sample size. That's what I would ultimately say. You understand? So I think that's there to put the frighteners on. The society that we live in has become a lot more individualistic, and I don't think that's confined solely to the West. I think that other parts of the world have definitely picked up on it. And now I know you mentioned Nigeria and you know the society not being so westernized, but I would contend that if you're in the urbanized areas, then, and especially if the urbanized areas are placed, parts where people are doing quite well for themselves, middle class enclaves, upper middle class enclaves, etc., the Western influence is going to rub up on you. For the most part, you are like a bootleg Westerner. So a lot of the attitudes you're going to take on, I'm sure you've seen people in the comment section, every so often, they might not be regulars, but have spoken to similar issues with women there. Feminism's taken root there. mgtow is taken root there. You understand? So a lot of the trends that we've seen come from America have taken root to varying degrees. I'm not saying that it's widespread entirely, but the reality is other parts of the country, whether it's the urbanized areas or the more rural areas, tend to try to emulate the Lagos influences. And the Lagos people tend to emulate what they see on the internet, particularly from Americans, because the UK doesn't just have that kind of global imprint. There's another concept I wanted to just briefly cover. Again, I hope you don't mind me mentioning the content creator.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Cool.
We
So
we must. We This is a stream for it.
okay, cool. Yeah, no problem, man. Okay, that's good. So I remember earlier today I was listening to the lead attorney. Well, it was BGS's channel, it was an extract from a interview that he had. And what he said is that when it comes to marriage, if you want to get the best out of it, and he's a divorce attorney that has
Right.
practiced, divorce law for like over 2 decades, he contends that you have to not have a sense of entitlement. That's the first thing, right? The second thing is he used the analogy of, say, for example, someone goes to a doctor, right? And they have a certain kind of prescription, which is typically used to treat depression. But let's just say, for example, it also treats other conditions. They call that off-label benefits or off-label medication, so to speak. So what he's saying is that marriage can be used in many different contexts. Some people, for example, go into a marriage solely, like you said, to have a child. They have a preset agreement where they're not trying to emulate Hollywood ideals or any of that romanticism. It's very functional. They may even, either party might even have like a side chick, which is transparent because they know what the objective is. In many cases, if you have, may not necessarily be wealthy, but you might have a home with equity and maybe a few other, relative investments. You look to protect yourself. So at least if it doesn't work out, then you're good. Even if as a man that doesn't have like wealth or is not an in quote high value man. He gave examples of, like, for instance, there's one guy who I think was a Mexican immigrant, fit, young, good looking man, tall, all of that. And he married like an overweight white woman. So in exchange for getting papers and having certain kind of, not having to worry about certain living costs and just ease of convenience, he became effectively her living carer. So she's a really big woman, like morbidly obese. He'd come home at in his lunch break, from what I heard, clean her up, help her do number twos. It's not the kind of thing that most people would advocate, but it worked for him. There's
Right.
another guy online, I forgot his name, who he cited, but that man, his wife has a boyfriend, which is, very transparent. He has a girlfriend. That wife can, give sloppy toppy to her boyfriend, do all sorts of stuff, and almost like a kind of like a, what's it, booty call, daytime booty call, and then come home. So I'm not advocating for any of that, but what he calls that is an off-label marriage, where you look for other incentives besides what is more like an ideal. Because many of us, and especially if we're talking about black people in the UK, a lot of us, if we're talking collectively, aren't married. A lot of either if they're not single parent, then they're like cohabitation, or kind of some kind of gray area,
Hmm.
equivocal situation. So many of us take on, and let's keep it real, Hollywood ideals. If you, I'm talking about the women, the guys who are influenced by women and lack a mind of their own or independent mindedness, they will try to emulate that. They'll try to follow the lead of the women that are like, oh, I want romance. I want my children to be loving up on, no, sorry, not children, sorry. They want their children to see them loving up on their husband and all sorts of stuff. And
Hmm.
what it's done is it's created a gray area. A lot of people have, I would say, almost like an arrogant kind of confidence when it comes
Right,
down
right.
to what
Okay,
marriage would look like. So yeah,
okay.
other things that come to mind, but I'll pass it on for now, man.
Yeah, Diego, man, great opener, man. Excellent insight, and that's what I'm looking for with the calling, man. I have my own views, but then when everyone comes on, man, like Diego, just expands that original point, which is awesome. So salute to Diego. We got Thomas Demahin in the building, man. Salute to you. How are you doing this evening, Thomas? You in there? Okay. While Thomas comes on, there is a super chat. Not a super chat. Sorry, there
Bro,
is
can
a
you hear me?
message that.
Am I
Yeah,
good?
1 second, Thomas. Yeah, we can hear you now. 1 second. Let me just read this comment. Griffin in the chat. Salute. He says, "Where and when is the best place to find new friends?" So this is an interesting question. In my opinion, I don't know if everyone else on the panel has their own input. In my opinion, man, just going outside. I know that's very vague, but I've tried to also put that in my old introvert videos, man. Trust me, when you almost have to schedule time to go outside, especially for us introverts. You know, every Sunday, I don't know, go to a museum, a gallery. Saturday do this and that. Go to somewhere new in your city, etc. You just put yourself out there. You're bound to gonna meet people. Just naturally. I think with a lot of us introverts, especially, we get used to comfort zones, being inside, being comfortable. Going outside is like, why? I mean, for it's true that most of us will be content with ourselves and without having other people in our space. But I think we still need to also be on the offensive to ensure that we have at least a circle, a social circle. You know what I mean? What do you think, Thomas?
Am I
Is
all good?
Thomas
Can you hear
there?
me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. What's up? How you doing?
Hello? Bro, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I'm good. Chilled Tuesday
Yeah.
night.
Hey, in the
Oh,
chat, press one if the
Monday.
sound is good in the chat, please.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay,
Am I
perfect.
good?
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. What's up?
Oh, good for me. 1 second. Give me a sec.
Okay, no worries, no worries.
I don't mind saying something in the meantime.
Yeah, for
If
real, Diego, for sure. Yeah, coming. Okay, I see
cool.
the ones, so I'm good. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, just a couple of quick things whilst sort of Thomas gets himself together. So one, I forgot to say how I even came across mgtow because that might even
Yeah,
when I
perfect.
first, it was by chance. I think it was back in 2017, like autumn. Um, went on to sometimes when I was bored, I'd go onto YouTube, randomly listen to just random stuff. I didn't really was not in the habit of having any subscriptions. And then there
Mhm.
was an Australian guy, and I think he was one of the forerunners in that space, and they used to call him mgtow. And I just
Mhm.
knew Miggy. And Miggy said some interesting things. He used to show like excerpts of like, like certain like red pill in quote kind of like, like for example, talk shows where you'd
Yeah.
have like red pill people come on. He showed excerpts of one guy, I can't remember his name. I think he saw, he added some other parts of Jordan Peterson. To cut a long
Mhm.
story short, what he was saying is that the women in this, like Western women are not worth it. His MGTOW, if I recall correctly, wasn't completely going monk. It was
Mhm.
just, almost like a cautious approach. We're just knowing that don't expect all this fluffy stuff that you've been conditioned to receive. And of course, in his follow list, you had people who were extreme. And what I found
Mhm.
interesting is that with some of these spaces, men's spaces, it attracts like a wide variety of people. As you said, some people have some kind of red pill kind of rage or some sense
Mhm.
of regret or what have you, right? But they still have people skills. They can still go out there. They still, you understand, they can still conduct themselves in a sociable manner in public. But you have other people who just don't have them skills. So for them, they gravitate to certain spaces. It's almost like a form of therapy for them, so that they can kind of like remind themselves that I don't need to get to know people. I don't need to step out my comfort zone. I think one's going to be introverted. I think it kind of has to be by an informed choice. It's not that you can't be someone that has some measure of sort of sociability, but you're making an informed choice to kind of, am I making sense? Like, I'll use myself as an example quick, right? Or does Thomas want to speak, or should I just
No, go for your example, man.
Go on.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So I'll use myself as an example. Like, I'm not sure if I've said this on on past podcasts, but from when I was a kid, I used to, when I say kid, teenager, young adult, I used to organize parties. I was someone that was, very into like networking. I mean, I still network, don't get me wrong, I just don't organize the parties anymore. But then gradually speaking, as I got older and I was trying to be the best version of myself, obviously I had certain blind spots. Self-awareness is something that, is constantly evolving. You can never have all the answers
for sure
from the outset. And I noticed that certain people started to be a bit toxic. Like, I found out
what way?
So, like, for instance, some people would try to, like the whole projection, you think you're better than us. Why do you think you're better? Why do you talk like that, though? Why don't you talk like the man them? And some of these guys weren't even man them like that, but they kind of wanted to mold and craft this kind of ideal. So because I was moving in a certain direction, right, they weren't really comfortable with that. And then I think I mentioned this on a previous sort of stream, or at least alluded to it, where I'd have women who had been embracing this kind of modern woman, independent woman, American content. So they now, like, it's almost like an incongruence where they're looking at, a lot of them said that they had brothers that went to Penn or aren't doing much. And so they're more comfortable with seeing guys from like the round the way who aren't doing anything come across me, think it's a divine responsibility to sabotage me. So I never understood these things. In fact, because I didn't understand how toxic people were, because I just kept on coming across so many toxic black people, I thought I was a problem. I internalized that shit for years. You understand? And then the penny dropped for me. I can't even remember when it was now. I think it might have been when a girl got me attacked under a pretense. And I realized that it would be far better for me to be an island, a one-man band, know that I'm by myself. This is like my corner solution. It's not ideal, but if I'm reflecting on what I'm seeing, it's better for me to be a one-man band than to basically tell myself that I'm surrounded by people. Meanwhile, all these people are waiting for me to fail. So they're almost like, if I'm smashing it in life, then yeah, he's someone to know good. If I look, and even if it's more so perception than reality, if I look like I'm struggling, then yeah, they can get entertainment and amusement from that.
Exactly, so man. That's something I could never ever like some people do it very well. And from my experience, a lot of women can do this very well, where they can hang around with people who don't have their best interest, who sneak this them and say a lot of things behind their back, but just for the sake of having friends, they will, keep them in line and still hang around with them. Like, yeah, I can't do that. And I think, I don't want to generalize, but I think a lot of guys can't tolerate that too at a certain point where, your friends are not supportive of you, in a real sense. So that's a very deep thing that you said.
Can you guys hear me?
Thomas, man, how are you doing? What's on your mind? What do you think of the topic?
See, mgtow, I'm against it because it's basically you're deriving yourself of human interaction. Because you're just living by yourself, living a solitude life. I just felt that was pretty unhealthy. But I don't support mgtow. I'm SYSBM.
What's the differences between SYSBM and mgtow?
SYSBM, black men that put themselves first, becoming the best versions of themselves, and basically having traditional families, building legacies. That's the difference. mgtow.
So I guess the difference is family then, yeah? So it's like...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Family, but wanting traditional women. That's the thing.
Okay, but as a self-professed SYSBM, and I think you would agree that you're a passport bro too, do you think like America is leading by a bad example, and a lot of us Brits, a lot of us people over here in Europe, we're just absorbing whatever America feeds us and we are running with it as that is our problem? Or do you think that America, UK have the one-on-one, same issues?
Yeah, pretty much the second point.
We have the same issues.
Yeah, we have to remember, the UK and the US, they're siblings. Everything that comes from America gets dropped in the UK. Like, you see it in the culture, you see it in the entertainment, you see it in the way how people act. Like, like America has negatively affected the UK, and it shouldn't have, but it has, unfortunately. And you see it in the women. You know, I I'm gonna I don't want to. Can I mention one YouTuber because it's
Go
quite
for it. Go for
prevalent?
it.
All right, so you look at Just Pearly Things. I know
Mm-hmm.
brother KB Jones was on a show once.
Mm-hmm.
Look how you look at the women presented on her show. All modern women, liberal-minded, British women. All none of them are conservative, bro. So you have to agree with men who don't want to get married in the UK because when you perform the cost benefit analysis, there is no benefit. There's just only costs. You look at like these modern Western women from the UK. They may look like tens, but their mindsets are just completely warped. And
Okay.
like you like I understand men who just want to derive themselves from modern Western women from the UK because like they've had enough. Because you have to look at the media. There is a war on traditional masculinity. That also affects the male psyche. Men can't be masculine anymore. You know, you have all these female-centric movements like feminism, Me Too, interacting with women. Yeah, you have to be. It's like walking on glass. You have to be very careful. So when I look at that, I'm like, this is just complete nonsense. Right?
Okay, so I assume that you were in a relationship with a so-called Western woman. What are the traits then? Like, what are these things that make them so kind of impossible to deal with, in your opinion? Have you even been in a relationship with a Western woman like that?
Many times. Many
Okay.
times. The last time I was with a relationship with a Western woman was at the tail end of my university days. So I attended the
Mhm.
University of Greenwich, and I was in a relationship with a Western woman. She was Chinese Western. However, she was liberal. So I had to cut ties with her because I wasn't raised to be liberal. I was raised as a conservative.
Mhm.
So when I saw the red flags, I instantly cut the relationship. She used to be a conservative, bro,
Mm.
but the culture
It
affected
warped
her,
her, or
it warped her mind. That's what I'd say. I said this before. Universities are like the final form. They're like, Super Saiyan 4 or Ultra Instinct. These UK women, they may come from a traditional family, but once they
Mhm.
enter university, they become rebellious. They start adopting the liberal ideology, all of these liberal values, which are just destructive in itself.
There's
And
something that I've always wanted to ask you, bro. I don't mean to cut you off, but it's
go
just it's
on.
fresh in my mind. I want to ask you this because, and it's not to you, we've had this discussion many times, but to anyone else who wants to, okay, the relationship potential in this country is no good, it's very poor, so I'm going to go abroad. But this is my thing. It's like, okay, a conservative society, a conservative woman, for example,
Mm,
won't entertain a foreign man because if she's a true conservative, she will only be interested in her own quote unquote kind. So don't you think that if okay, men go abroad because the UK, the USA is so bad, that the women who are going to be more open to you in terms of having a relationship with you, potentially having a family with you, they're going to be more on the liberal side because they're going to think, okay, look, this is something different, someone different from my norm. So this is going against the grain of my conservative culture. Aren't you?
Mm,
Isn't
No,
isn't no?
no,
I think Diego also had something to say, but what do you think, Thomas?
no. I used to think like that.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly used to think like that when I travel. But when I interact with conservative foreign women, no, they're pretty much open because they can see that based on how I interact with them, based on my morals, my talking points, they can see, hey, this guy may be foreign, but he's conservative, he's traditionally minded, so they can see that.
Mm.
I'm like, wow, yeah, and as I travel, before I travel, actually, I any country I go to, I respect the culture. I try
Mm-hmm.
to prepare myself, educate myself on the culture. So me going the extra mile before I travel and
Mm-hmm.
understanding the culture, that I'm already being conservative, bro. A liberal
Mm-hmm. I
man
get
won't do
that.
that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what we call Renaissance men, men who respect different cultures throughout the world. So when I interact with foreign women, they can see that, and they know based on how I
Mm-hmm.
articulate
Mm-hmm.
myself, they can tell,
Okay.
I like you because you're not a typical Westerner
Mm-hmm.
who's just traveling for
Mm-hmm.
respect culture, respect our native tongue and our values. So foreign women, they love Western men who are conservative, not
Right.
liberal.
Okay. Great point. I hear that. Bro. Great opener. Diego, I think you wanted to jump at some point.
yeah,
Um.
yeah. What I wanted to say, it was interesting what you just said about if they're conservative. I think it tends to come down more so to class and ideology.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think there's a tendency to think that just literally going by face value being black would be the issue. But look, I mean, I'll say this much. When I used to organize my parties, a lot of it used to be for, I done it for like people from a host of different backgrounds, but it was almost like a bird's eye view. I literally had access to all kinds of nationalities and class backgrounds and some very wealthy women. And I met a few of their parents by chance and they loved me. I'm not sort of like, I wasn't, like, I was just me, to be honest. I mean, obviously I spoke well. I was enterprising, ambitious. I didn't go over the top and trying to actually show that, but
Mm-hmm.
all the different types of parents, their backgrounds, even the Arab and the Asian parents, even though I wasn't really trying to get with their girls on a serious level, they all liked me. There wasn't one person that didn't. Some girl tried to jokingly say that her granddad was racist, and he said to me, "Don't listen to her. Nah, that's complete nonsense." And then he was like, "You understand?" He was cool. We were having a drink, talking, old school man, like one of those wealthy Jewish men. The point I'm basically making is that if they, and when I say class, it's a bit relative, but more so whether you're from a certain kind of background or you're heading in a certain direction, it doesn't really tend to be an issue, if that makes sense. If you're just a regular guy from, like, when I say from ends, some guy that's from ends that doesn't have any real aspirational
Mm-hmm.
parts
Mm-hmm.
of his personality, as Thomas said, he doesn't have any Renaissance inclinations. He's not coming from that type of angle. He's just looking to
Mm-hmm.
chop. You understand? Just like, yeah, this is the woman. Like, more likely going to have his backup. In fact, in certain cases, if that guy was to be in that kind of context or circumstances, settings, whatever, he's going to have a certain kind of chip on his shoulder. The energy is going to emit, and then if he's not inevitably received well, then he's going to tell himself, "Yeah, I knew it." But it's
Right.
therein for a lot of people who would put themselves in that place, it's a lack of self-awareness. Also, another thing to take into account as well, if you're a black man with a Western passport in some of these spaces, even the top tier women of the societies, I think there's this very erroneous notion that guys are taking advantage of women in third
Mm-hmm.
world countries, but
Mm-hmm.
some of these guys only go to certain kind of establishments. So by virtue of that, they're already filtering the kind of women they're going to fraternize with anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
because they have
mm-hmm.
that passport, right? It gives them, I'm not going to say they're like white men, but they're almost like honorary white men without being white because they're seen as creme de la creme. Even if they may be a bit rough around the edges, the mere fact that they can articulate themselves to a certain degree and they got the passport will actually give them a certain kind of privilege and access to a certain quality of woman that they
Correct.
would get in the West.
Correct. Brother, can I
Mm-hmm.
add on, please? Please let me
Sure,
quickly
go
add
for
on.
it.
Now, what Brother Diego said is absolutely spot on. Now, in terms of black men with passports going to third world countries, yes, but we're also going to first world countries as well.
Mhm.
Now, I didn't want to do this, but there's a certain type of black men with passports who are just ruining the image of passport bros.
You mean the passport pookie?
Absolutely. They have ruined Dominican Republic.
Wait a sec.
Nani?
Nani?
That's all right. Well, I
Alfred, you
forget
got
my
a
sound.
soundboard there, yeah?
Nah, I got the bootleg StreamYard button thing, but I'm trying. I'm getting there. Sorry, Thomas. Sorry, Thomas.
No, it's all good, bro. Like, these passport pookies, they're the reason, you know, I see all these critics of the passport bros saying, oh, you know, he's going to trick women when you're just going to abuse these women because they come from poor countries, these third world, defamished countries. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're talking about the passport pookies. They go to the Dominican Republic, they trick these women, and that's why I've seen all these headlines on Dominican Republic that the politicians they're changing, the travel restrictions for foreigners. I'm like, oh my goodness, these waste men, like, good, go away. So I'm just like, these passport pookies need to stay in the West, stay in the UK and the US, because that's where you belong. These foreign women don't want you, because it's clear that a foreign woman, who they're most likely going to be traditional, they want a traditional man. And
I heard
that's why. But hold on, bro. That's why when you travel, actually, you know what? This is a question for you, strictly for you, bro, Valken. But I'll let Brother KB talk.
What's the question?
No, go on, Falcon. Go on to his question.
No. So
okay. One sec. I appreciate that. Let me just quickly shout out Michael Meachuk the fourth, man, the key moderator in this building, man, with the 99-cent donation, always coming in donating, man. I appreciate that, man. If you support this type of stream, I know it's different from the usual kind of purely entertainment type of stream. Feel free to hit a super chat. You know, the reason why is because that is a good influencer to showcase that you support this type of stream. But also, I'm trying to give back in the form of awards. So the top 3 contestants or the panelists will be awarded by their input on these streams. So yeah, feel free to do that if you can, only if you can. But salute to Michael Meachuk the fourth. We had what's his name, Don Osman in the building, man. How you doing, man? And what are your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, it's regards to the whole passport bros. You know,
but before one sec, before the passport, bro, what with regards to mgtow, loneliness, do you think that is a healthy lifestyle, or do you live that lifestyle? What are your thoughts on that before we venture off?
I mean, if you're a guy that engages in that type of lifestyle, for a guy to actually stay alone and be single for the rest of his life and all that person has to be mentally strong, right? So yeah, I think a lot of guys could do that, to be honest. Only a few guys.
So you think it's a good thing to be able to do for the rest of your life?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that I don't think majority of guys is suited for them, right? So I think it's only a small amount of guys that can do that. But the thing is, downside to it is that you won't a person that engages in that lifestyle won't have a relationship, or perhaps won't have a long-term relationship, anything like that, to be honest. And I know guys that engage in that. I remember one guy, a YouTuber, said one time that he prefers cigars over women or something like that.
Let me get, who was that? That sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's deceased.
David Carroll.
Yeah, that guy.
Rest in peace. Yeah.
And and I always found it to be quite interesting, to be honest. Most guys
the unfortunate thing about David Carroll is that while he might say something like that, he seems to always be talking about women, though. That was the kind of thing, that was kind of my kind of thing, is that what what is the end goal type of thing.
Yeah. But the thing about Dave Carroll is, yeah, it sounds to me that he knows how to talk to women. He knows how to engage women and all that. And I think that, I think that was probably his preference, like to stay single. I think most guys would probably choose sex over, cigars or something like that. Or relationship with a woman than, having cigars. But yeah, I think that like I said, it's only a few guys could actually stay single, and
Can you do
those
it?
guys, yeah, those guys have to be mentally strong. Like,
Can
a
you
lot of
do
people
that for
don't
the rest
have.
of your life?
What, me?
Yeah.
I
Do you
don't see
think you have
myself
the
getting. Yeah, yeah. I just personally, me, I don't know, to be honest. I don't know.
or
I don't know.
unsure, pretty much?
Um, I don't know, to
Don't
be honest.
worry, don't.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm
that's
only
okay.
in
You
my
don't have to
20s
answer.
anyway. Like,
Yeah. Don't worry.
yeah, I'm only
You
in
don't
my
have to answer
20s,
that. I
and
know these are deep. These
yeah,
are deep life questions.
yeah.
So I like that. But what did
And
you
I
want to say on the past one?
I don't decide to get married anytime soon. But
Right.
yeah, but it's a very, you have to be mentally strong. You're gonna have people talking about you behind your back if you are single, like in your 40s, and you're not married or don't have any kids and all that. Back in the day, you had guys that that engage in such lifestyle. They'll be questioning their sexualities and stuff like that. So
That's a good
you have
point.
to be mentally strong. You have to take no notice of what people say about you. You have to you have to be your purpose, right? So you have to focus on something that you're good at, right? So
Absolutely.
what gives you a satisfaction? What is your purpose? What's the thing that drives you every single day? You need that motivation in order to get through,
That's a
right?
great
As
point.
a
And I think,
substitute, yeah, as a
sorry to cut
substitute,
in. Sorry to cut in.
yeah,
I think that that's an important point because I believe that it's the people who don't have that sense of purpose who find
yeah,
themselves to be in a lonely situation. They don't have that drive. They might not have that drive every day, especially if they believe that, oh no, a relationship's only in this country at least is only going to end in failure. Plus, you don't have a purpose. You don't have that thing that wakes you up every day. Don't have a sport. You don't have a career like the type of career that you want. You don't have a business. That person I think is going to be the one that's prone to probably the ill health,
yeah.
depression, stuff like that, substance abuse.
And also, if you're a guy that that engages in that lifestyle, I think it's a lifestyle. It's a type of lifestyle. What do you call it? It's with S. Solitude, right? Solitude
Yeah,
lifestyle.
solitude.
Yeah, solitude lifestyle. So, if you're a religious person and you engage in solitude lifestyle, religiously speaking, it's imperative for someone that is not married to abstain from fornication, right? So yeah, and people that engage in solitude lifestyle, engage in fornication, right? So and fornication is a major sin as well. So, but it's it's a widespread
Right.
issue and all that.
So
But
you're very religious.
yeah, I was brought up,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, with regards to the whole, feminism stuff like that, uh, you know, I think a lot of people say, feminism, it's, equality and stuff like that. Some would even say, well, feminism means women having superiority, a rule over men, or something along the lines of it. Do you know what? Yeah, what I find is, yeah, like, I genuinely believe that women and men should be held to the same account, like legally speaking.
Right.
There shouldn't be discriminated against in employment or any other aspects of employment or any legal when it comes to finance, anything like that. In
Okay.
my opinion, but what I
Okay.
find,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, sorry. No, we because I need to get to the two new people in the
yeah,
chat. But save that thought, please, because that's an interesting path
okay,
you were going down. But I appreciate you, Don Osborne. Let me quickly shout out Morosa, man. Good to have you in the building, man. He comes in with the £3 UK super chat, man. I appreciate that support, man. Big up to you, Morosa, man, in the building. Salute to you. I think next up was KB Jones. So salute to KB Jones, man. How you doing? And what's on your mind with
Yeah.
regards to this topic, bro?
Good evening, Falcon. Good evening, chat. Good evening, panel. Good evening,
bro.
everyone.
Good evening.
How you doing, brother? I'm very good, thank you. A bit tired, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go a slightly different lane. So yeah, your stream's gonna be all over the place today, to be honest, bro. But
Yeah, no problem. I know it's one of those streams, but hey, let's just get out there and let's just express.
all right, I'm gonna bring in a slightly different viewpoint anyway. Yeah.
Mhm.
So speaking as, and I'm a weird case because I'm a married man, but I feel
Mhm.
like I still have my ear to the ground, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What's interesting, right, is when it comes to things like, I mean, I'm not going to go as far as passport bros, but things like
Mhm.
mgtow, etc., right?
Mhm.
Even though I'm married, I can kind of, not even kind of, I can fully understand where they're coming from. And
Mhm.
especially when it comes to Western women. And there's two main reasons I'm going to bring up why.
Mhm.
Number one, right? So just a little brief on anybody who doesn't know. I'm going to be very quick. So me and my missus have known each other for a long time, since we've both been about 20. So that's roughly 2006, 2007. And we met in like college, uni, like as friends, and we got together. We've been together for a long time, etc. Right? As we got closer to getting married 9 years ago, and as in particular her friends. Now I have to be specific here because she's got her girlfriends, her girl group. Let's say there's about 6 or 7 of them, right?
Mhm.
At least half of them are Western, Caribbean, African background, whatever, but British, Western, born and raised, have the mentality, etc. And the other half are either originally born or grew up in, say, somewhere in Africa or the Caribbean or something. So even though they're here now, they originally come from somewhere else, right? Now, the ones that were, well, this is what I noticed. The ones that were not so British, westernized, whatever, they were more happy for us getting married compared to the Western ones. Even up, no, seriously, even up until about 18 months ago, these Western ones were fully trying. I'm okay. With hindsight, as far as I'm concerned, they tried to sabotage our marriage. I'm not going to go into why, but my missus now does not speak to those people anymore. She's had to physically remove herself from those people because even she's noticed the sabotage. So it's very interesting that when I started to notice or come across mgtow, red pill, even to extent passport bros, and they were saying certain things, even though I'm married, and why I said, I said I keep my ear to the ground because I feel like I'm still around. I know what's going on and everything else. I started to see some of those things. I found that really interesting. I didn't put it down to people being from certain places, but when I broke it down, I was like, it's all the British women. Bear in mind,
that were negatively minded about the idea of you being married.
Brother, I know the answer. I know the answer to that, bro.
They're negatively minded. There was one in particular that was very passive aggressive. She was she was my wife's best friend, because one of those people that you didn't see it, you kind of suspected it, but you always thought she was inside. She was the worst one. Now, when it came, not only the fact of us getting married, even the wedding day, yeah. Do you know what? I'm going to do a story time on my channel about that wedding day one day because you will cry and laugh at the same time because I cried and laughed. Yeah.
Brother, I know. Oh, sorry to interrupt you, brother. I know the reason why the women who are associated with your partner were angry. The reason why, well, not only are they liberal, but they hate the fact, or they hate marriage. They hate that. You see, women hate other women. That's what I've noticed. What they call women. You see, it's funny that the non-Western women were happy for yourself and your spouse.
Oh, they was ecstatic, especially the African ones. Oh, they was ecstatic.
They were very happy because bro, they're traditional minded. Whereas the UK black women, they're liberals. They hate the fact that they think, being conservative, that's so outdated. We're not living in the 1950s anymore. We're not parents, we're not our grandparents.
bro.
Well,
Even you saying that, bro, even you saying that. Excuse me. As our marriage went on, that's what a lot of the complaints were about. Why are you so attentive to him? Why do you why do you chase after him? Why does he leave the house? We have this thing of look, we live together, we have our house, we both own it, etc. Both our names are on the deed. But I do most of the things in the house. Why? Because it's my house. Yeah. And it's not me oppressing her, and she fully is on board with it. It's my yard.
brother,
My
well,
wife
hold on,
and my
brother.
son
One
live
second,
there.
Thomas. 1 second, Thomas. Let KB get the full story.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
my
okay.
yard. It's my yard, yeah? My wife and my son live there with me. That's my yard. I don't live with my woman. I don't live at my woman's. It's my yard. Yeah, because I'm the man of the house. Even with that whole concept and the fact that my wife is fully on board of it, the concept blew their mind. It blew their absolute mind. Right?
It makes me it makes me remember this point, man. When I was in another relationship where basically that woman was trying to prove, when her friends would come over, she would actively try to prove that she was quote unquote submissive by like serving me food first and doing all that stuff, you know, because her friends were pretty much feminist minded, right? But the sad reality was that a few years down the line, when they keep hanging out, the more they hang out, it's like that so-called traditional submissive side gets killed off. If you let that,
Oh my goodness.
if they affect that, if they are in that you know, around her, she's basically going to be turned bit by bit. And this is what I mean by these ideologies, whether it's the MGTOW or the feminist, it's so contagious because it's so
bro. It started small. It was first. It was do you want to? Because it's okay. I'm okay. As much as I say it's my yard and everything else, it is. But I'm not somebody. I don't keep my woman locked up. She doesn't have. She's a reader. She's someone. She wants to be inside and read. She loves reading. That's her thing, right? So she's not really a go out person. If anything, I've got to drag her out to come out with me, right? But it was especially when the marriage was early, especially that honeymoon period. And for a marriage, is about 6 months, and it is a real thing actually. That does exist. Just wanted to say, guys, like, really, like we just I won't go X-rated, but like we was consistent for about 6 months. Yeah, several times, and any time we could, yeah. And oh god, what was I saying? Yes, sorry, it started small. So they tried to get her, like, even you want to go out for a girls' night, etc., and so on. And then the invite started to become more frequent. They, you know, all of a sudden, our house was the headquarter house where everybody chilled, or shall we say, everybody, as in her friends. And it wouldn't just be one of them; it'd be, oh, we're coming round, and it's like, what do you mean you're coming round? You know, that type of. Eventually, it turned into that talk. First, it was, are you guys busy? To, oh, what are you guys doing? We're coming round. Fam, it's 11 o'clock on a Friday. I'm drinking Henny with my wife, bro. Just like, what do you want? Like, do you know what I mean?
Brother.
So it went,
one sec, KB. One sec, Thomas. So I'm just trying to understand, KB. So basically you're married, but you can understand why is it you are understanding of the MGTOW?
How come I understand? Because because with every scenario I see, because I've got the second point I was going to say is, with every scenario I see, it's like I put myself, because obviously I still find out, you know, what situations with my friends, my family members, etc. They still got things going on. Not all of them are like married off or anything. And I always put myself in these scenarios, and I like the women that are around, I like my my wife's ex-friends, and it's like, if I was in the market, I'd have to deal with these people, bro. Like, I was gonna say something else, but I have to deal with these people, and it's like, it's rough out there. Now, the second point I was gonna say is also from being a married man is, okay, I did all right in my young years, up until, because me and my wife were friends for a few years first before we got together, and then we went, you know, then just went forward from there. So even around then. But I'll tell you what, and then there was a period of being a long-term relationship. We got engaged, we got married, we had our son, etc. I'll tell you what, I've not had probably my whole life, and I'm going to say opportunities because obviously I'm off the market, so I'm not moving to any women, right? But why is it I've had several scenarios in the last 9 years, people fully known are married, because it's something I make a point of announcing. And I'll tell you what, from a married man's point of view, first and foremost, right, the things women will say around me, bruv, the things women say about us, yeah, but I'm almost not there because I'm married, bruv, like, I would not want to be single. And if I was single right now, it'd just be one of them. Like, look, if and when I come across somebody and we have a little spark and something, and we will link for a while, that's it. Because I even said to my missus, if we ever break up, I'm done, bruv. I'm done.
Right. Okay, I hear that.
No, that's it. I'm done.
Great input. 1 second, Thomas. 1 second, Thomas. Let me just quickly go to Ephraim because he's been in, and then we can go for the free form type of open conversation. All right. But Ephraim Ackworth, man, how you doing, bro? Good to have you on the panel.
Good to be in this panel. Yes. Can you hear me?
To you, it's a clicky with your mic. Maybe more of a push or plug in.
Wait, can you hear me still?
It's still a bit twitchy.
Oh, let me
with a mic on the phone. Oof.
Okay.
Or headphones. Is that headphones?
Yeah, the headphones which were.
Okay, now it's good. So what's your viewpoint on this whole issue, mgtow, lone wolf, loneliness, maybe even marriage stats and all of that?
Well, I would say, well, for us as men, especially black men in the UK, I don't think mgtow or even living alone is the best way, especially in Britain, because of again with mental health and so on. I would say the community aspect also amongst us is very small. It's not like our families back home in Africa and in the Caribbean too, where if you're even outside of your house, you can meet someone out there and have a chat, one or two, and you like, all your troubles, all your worries that you have in your mind will go. But in the UK, for how it is culturally and how it is in the atmosphere, is mostly insulated. And with that too, if you can't have a companion or someone to be with, it can be lonely, and it can be at the same time stressful physically and mentally and sexually, because you can't find that compatibility among for yourself,
right.
And so on.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I want to ask you don't have to answer if it's too personal, but okay, you don't believe mgtow is, like I'm saying, pretty much is applicable or the best route for, black men in Britain. Then are you kind of someone that's in between? Like you kind of understand the mentality, but at the same time, perhaps you are, I don't know, you are still kind of looking out for maybe, the person who will make your family. Is that accurate?
I would say I'm in between, but at the same time too, because I'm in my 20s, so I can't give a rough
for sure.
Yeah, rough view on what it will be in the future. But if you're about having a legacy, if you're about having a family, especially in the Western world, you have to consider the fact that you can't live alone. But at the same time too, I understand why some men will bow out and live alone because of what's against them with social issues like feminism and family courts and here and there, and also outside influences. Because to KB Jones's point, it does happen. If anything happens once you are married, the friends that your wife used to be around before, they start to have this kind of, I would say, bitterness, this kind of animosity. And with that in place, it does infringe on your purpose. It does infringe on what you want in your life. Because at the end of the day, you care about this person. And you don't want that person you care for to be hurt because of outside influences.
Right.
Even to may he rest in peace, K. Samuels. He even said a point that if you're a couple like boyfriend or girlfriend or even husband and wife, you should not associate yourself around single people because they are the ones also can, again, put a wedge between you and the relationship. They're the ones that they will become like more or less your your like how would I say like the budge, right? Like let's say uninterrupted, like
We
someone,
get it. We understand.
yes,
Yeah, they'll be like, yeah, undermining your relationship. They'll be ready
yeah,
to
yeah, they start undermining your relationship, and that to and which to his point is true, and he suggests that it's best for marriage couples to be with other marriage couples as friends, so that there can be a bit of compatibility and a bit of understanding between the relationship itself, being around single friends, because you don't know if that single friend of yours wants you in your best interest, or they're just there to just cause disruption.
right. Great points, bro. Great points, bro. Let me quickly add in, and then we're gonna change around. But let me quickly shout out Red Sings the Blues with the $5 super chat, man. I appreciate the American support in the building. You all know Red Sings the Blues, a big content creator over there. He says, "Donation Falcon, we got a collab, long time coming. Loving the topics. The big content creators are getting real heated at me, so I got to get you on." Hey, yes, sir, man. I know before we tried to do it some time back, but I'll be definitely open for doing that with you, man. I appreciate the support.
Can I just say something?
One sec. Let me just add in, man. Where is it? Where is it in my head? You know what? To your point, to KB's point, to Ephraim's point, you know, we all kind of understand that when we're in relationships, we know that there is a negative energy around single friends and friends who might be, I don't know, in damaged situations. And you know, there are those friends that like they get annoyed that once you're in a relationship, your girlfriends are probably not going out as much, and they really need that person to be out. So it's like but the thing is that if you do the thing that is necessary, which is basically saying, look, you know, for the sake of the relationship, I need you to be in this certain way. It's like the whole society will consider that controlling.
Yes.
So it's almost like you can't, you know, you're doomed if you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't, type of thing.
Brother, you absolutely wait. Hold on, bro, Diego. Brother, you're absolutely right. You see, brother KB's Jones' wife's friends, they hate the fact that she's a chosen woman. They'll probably call her a pick-me or a Molly homemaker. So she.
And guess what? They have to point out that she's the lightest one of the group. Just saying.
Oh my goodness. See.
Okay.
But hold on, brother. Hold on. See, brother KB's wife, she's embracing her traditional gender role. That's what these women don't like. She's being a conservative woman. Something that they don't like because they're liberal minded. They because of the feminist movement, the feminist ideology saying, you know, being conservative means the woman has to be a slave to her man, and she can't embrace her ambitions. Brother KB,
Yes, sir.
I know. By the sounds of your wife, I know that she's a driven woman. Now, let me explain. So, the difference between a driven woman and a career-orientated woman is that a career-orientated woman is a modern woman. She's a liberal. She puts her career before marriage and family, whereas a driven woman is a conservative woman who puts marriage and family before her ambition. I believe your wife is a driven woman. Am I correct?
Okay. One second, KB. I appreciate that's a question to KB, but I need to, you know, we haven't heard Diego for a while, but Thomas, like, hold that thought and we can get there.
Okay.
But I've got a general question before I hand it to Diego, you know, I'm sure he has some thoughts. But Efrain mentioned legacy, and I hear a lot of people saying, well, legacy is overrated, you know, it's not really a legacy. Kids, you know, they are their own people. So open to everyone after Diego's point. Is legacy overrated? So over to Diego for now, and then we'll come and I see Billy the Goat in the building too, so we'll get to him as well. But what's on your mind, Diego?
A few of the comments that have been shared, particularly from KB Jones and to a certain extent from Thomas, got me thinking. And in fact, some of the stuff you said earlier. So the issue when it comes down to this climate that we're in, and this is where I think some of us unmarried millennials in particular have to be mindful of. You know, the propaganda that our grandmas had to do this, that, and the other. We shouldn't have to do it. We're liberal. A lot of the stuff they've been told is like I said, is propaganda, is fallacies. They want to hold us accountable for fallacies from older generations. So let's just say there are instances where some men were oppressive, which was not a pattern, it was an isolation at best, right? They want to hold you accountable. So you're supposed to pay the tab of a guy from a foregone era. That's the first thing. The second thing that has to be taken into account as well, the individualistic nature of things. That article spoke to, you know, black people being more likely to be lonely, right? Again, that doesn't really sort of specify if it's the women or if it's the men, and which of either, you know, who's more likely to feel lonely, because the individualism or individualistic culture we live in, I don't think is indivisible from the consumerist sentiment that we have. You know, people make, even if you adjust for inflation, many people make more money than they did in years back, but certain things are very costly. So there's more expense. A lot of the women have more expectation from you as the potential partner or husband or whatever than they did of their dads. You understand? There's certain expectation that even if you're not making crazy money at this point, you're supposed to demonstrate you're ambitious, and there's an implicit, at least, belief in their mind that if you don't reach a certain level of ambition within a certain number of years, then they will act up and initiate a marriage breakup. And you spoke as well before about the no fault divorce. This makes it a lot easier for that. So, you know, this whole marriage reform, I don't see it happening. I think that many of us that were born at a time where the cost of living was a lot cheaper, the environment was a lot more communal. You know, I can remember, see, a lot of people that are from Caribbean backgrounds can speak of various different Caribbean events which used to be more common. I'm not saying that there aren't certain enclaves where they happen, but they're not like that anymore. You know, a lot of places like Westbourne Park used to have, you know, Caribbean events. It doesn't really have it like that anymore. A lot of people have migrated out maybe to other parts of the UK, to Caribbean, or they're dead, right? And then if you look at, like, even from the 90s, I remember there used to be, and I'm not sure if you remember this, but there used to be like community halls where sometimes it was a birthday, sometimes it was just an occasion. You'd have all of the adults, they'd have like big pots of jollof rice, all the kind of assortment of food that you can think of. It'd be like a playground where the kids would basically play outside and you get to know each other. And then the adults would just be doing their own thing. And that was like a common feature throughout the 90s. And I noticed from like the 2000s, it kind of dwindled, in some cases entirely stopped, and it's not been like that anymore. So why I'm saying all that is to say, the way that society has been orientated now, right, is for one where it doesn't really accommodate for families. It's more so for single people. This just really ultimately what you make of it. If you look at, like, for example, the internet is just inundated with how many options of stuff that you can watch, whether that's on YouTube, or if it's on Netflix, or if it's just literally, you know, whittling away time on stuff like Twitter. And I'm not saying that parents aren't on these spaces, but how many people, I tend to find that the women that talk a lot about traveling, again, there's nothing wrong with traveling, tend to be the women that don't have husbands in sight, nor do they seem like they're actually making that effort towards being a husband. I also have a theory that KB Jones's his wife's friends or former friends, they weren't trained to be wives, if that makes sense. So they developed a kind of I have nothing to lose mindset, which is why they don't mind wrecking other people's homes where they can, because they've already determined that for them to now start trying to take on certain traits, they'd be stepping well out of their comfort zone. And so they don't really want to compete. And that's why I think that there's going to be, where the women are attractive enough, there's going to be an increase in more and more side chicks, because a lot of these women have embraced a sexual liberation culture. And so based on their behavior, at best, they're side chick candidates, at best, possibly even waiting list material, if I'm being honest. So these are things that can't be dismissed when it comes down to creating a home, because even if you want to create a family, there has to be this kind of element of trust, or, you know, kind of say presupposition that the wife is, or the woman in question is sacrificial. Do you understand? Who actually believes in the idea of a legacy, if you will. And legacy is also relative, because even like I know you mentioned earlier about Nigeria and certain places where there is more, you know, there's still a sense of community, right? My situation is a bit different. I come from a large family, man. But in a sense, it's almost like when I say fragments, there's like certain like different groups, if that makes sense. And because of certain decisions my mum made growing up, I didn't get to have as much access to my dad's side as I would have liked. So I've missed out on an opportunity to build a rapport with some of my cousins that I'm not happy
Right.
about. I won't go too much into it. The main point for me to kind of convey or put across is I don't personally, and I'm not the only one that has a similar situation, has access to build a legacy through them. And I can't remember, I spoke about the transnational thingy. I'm kind of in a bit of a weird position on it, because I don't really, let's just assume I'm blessed with a long life, but I don't want to die here. I don't even really want to live here beyond the next couple of decades. I, you know, predominantly being based here. So these are questions that many of us kind of are almost left to the wayside or not even considering. So even I'm not averse to raising a family and all that kind of stuff, but I just think that the environment we live in, at least in my lifetime, is unprecedented. They already kind of preempted from the 70s that they needed to make it harder to have families, because they were worried that the population was. This is not conspiracy theory; it's literally just economic.
Yeah, for sure. Great point. That's a great point that a lot of people are echoing, that the society just isn't doesn't seem to be pertaining to family raising, you know. So great points, man. Let me quickly shout out Marosa, man. Another super chat, £3. Thanks for sponsoring the show. He seems to be, you know, active and enjoying, so I appreciate that. He says, for me, the only reason for marriage is children. Absolutely. I mean, who disagrees with that?
No,
Or who agrees with that?
I agree, but
what other reason is there for marriage besides children?
Do you know what? I agree with that. I have to say that because, to be honest, like when I got married, I said out loud to my missus, but internally I did have a sense of like I was thinking of my son. Partly, to be honest, I was thinking of my son, not in a just for my son, but partly like it's, you know, he's official. To be frank, he's not a bastard. Do you know them ones? Like, is that real, bro? So I can agree with that notion, actually.
Sorry, Thomas, I think I cut you off. What did you want to add?
No, I agree with family and with children, because, you know, you want to give back to the next generation, and the next generation will be your offsprings. You want them to have the life that you never had. So, and you know, it just completes you as an individual. So, when you have children, you pass on what you know to those who are coming after you. So it's your duty to make sure that they're raised correctly. So
I agree. I just think if you want children, having it in that cohabitating way where it's like it's not set if your kid's surname is going to be your surname, and it's like it's kind of like unofficial. It's kind of loose, you know. So I generally agree with that.
Wait, hold on, bro. I want my children to live in a very comfortable and happy life. I want them to be privileged. So that's why, as a young man in my 20s, I'm working hard towards it. So I'm working hard towards that.
Salute to that, bro. We got one sec. Sorry, let me just quickly get the two on, and then we can freestyle it. I know time's going on because of my long ass monologue, but we got Billy the Goat in the building, man. Salute to Billy the Goat. What's on your mind?
Salute Falcon and everyone in the chat. Let me know if
it's been a long time. Yeah, you sound good. Salute to you.
Great. Wonderful conversation you're all having.
I appreciate it.
The two main themes that seem to be we're going over here, which is like the aspect of loneliness and sort of marriage. The idea of legacy, this is just my viewpoint. I have a daughter, for those who don't know, and I'm a single dad, full custody, so my kid is with me. So my family's tiny, me and my kid, basically. I don't have the expectation she's going to carry a legacy as such, because once I pass away, for anyone to talk to her about her now deceased dad, it will be like a ghost is following her around. So she's in my perspective, she's free to make her own legacy. The legacy I'll be leaving behind will be the conversations we're having right now, for example, or the works I do. And in that way, it's not really bloodbound. It's your work lives on in other forms. Now there is a good chance she's going to follow in my sort of footsteps, because obviously I'm the primary influence in her life. But I'm not holding her like, you must carry my legacy and carry the torch on my behalf. You know, it's her.
And that's impossible, really, because I guess, you know, all the kids will have their own minds, right?
Right, and it's her life. I mean, it would be selfish of me to sort of dictate the future of her life and be like, you're going to have to do as I do, and don the goat avatar or something like that in my honor. I mean, so I don't see legacy being inherited in such a way,
right.
or at least it being.
You think it's overrated, or maybe not overrated? Maybe it's just not accurate as to what it is or what people are saying it is. I can see a selfish element with people who want their kids to walk in their parents' footsteps, like verbatim, as if the parent wants a sense of immortality through their children. So I will live on through my child, and I don't agree with that. Right.
So that part aside, the aspect of loneliness is quite a big topic, really. And what I'm getting the vibe from when it comes from the MGTOWs in particular, and a lot of people, is a lack of honesty. So there'll be a rationale. They'll try to reason it out why it's better pragmatically to be up by yourself. But they don't really. I don't really hear often, anyway, of people being humble enough to say what it really is. And I think it might be in part because it's hard to articulate. So I'll put it to you gentlemen like this. And KB Jones, I hope you don't mind if I use you as an example.
No, go ahead, bro. Go ahead. I'm listening intently, to be honest. Carry on, bro.
So when we have relationships, I think Diego, you touched on it, an element of trust, the ability to willingly allow yourself to be vulnerable. So what does that mean? It means risks, and people are so frightened now that they don't want to risk it. So we might have heard of codependency. Well, we have what we call counterdependency. I will not trust anything. And what that really means when you say that is that fundamentally I can't trust myself. That is why I can't trust anything. So when we then take that and apply it to when people talk about their reasons why they're lonely, like, so I'll use KB, if you don't mind, I'll use you as an example here. So when you're in a relationship, right? You see yourself as a man, and you see your woman as your woman, right? You in part, when you're in a relationship, you're not only in a relationship with your woman, but you're also in a relationship with yourself, because you see you and you see her. Otherwise, you would have a shared identity, and we call this enmeshment. So that's not healthy. So we want a distinction, like this is this and that is that. One is not the same as the other. One is not equates the other, because what's the difference then? So when we're in a relationship, yes, we see the other person, but we can also see ourselves through the other person's eyes. If we're very frightened, if we're scared people, we're scared to be alone, we're scared of vulnerability, we're scared of trust and all this, then possibly one of the reasons why we try to rationalize being alone is because we're frightened of seeing ourselves. So we choose to be alone because we, in a bizarre sort of way, we don't want to see who we really are. So if we're physically, literally on our own, we're just busy looking out into the world.
Great point.
We're incapable of seeing who we really are, because if we see who we really are, we might see that we're scared little children inside, kind of thing. So there's a huge element of shame, fear, and underpinning a serious lack of self-esteem. And that ties in with that dependency.
But I'm sure though, do you not see benefits of the so-called MGTOWs, or do you see at least their point for choosing that way of life?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time with the MGTOWs, but at the same time, and I don't really like to say it to their faces, but I see a lot of like anxieties, stresses, all sorts of, like, you know, the whole gamut of pathologies really going on.
Right. Hey,
a lot of
that's the
denial, a
honest,
lot of
yes.
dishonesty.
And that's what I've been trying to articulate as well, because I try to stay on top of my mental health and in however way I know how to. That's usually through activity, martial arts, training and all of that. So I kind of, when I see something is probably off, especially when someone's speaking in a way that is very I don't want to use the term extreme because that's probably a loaded word, but it's always one-sided, and it's always kind of on the line of blame. It's like, that's, surely you have some faults. Surely there is some flaws in your opinion or in what you do. So it's very hard for me to just be one-sided like that.
Yes, there's a lot of cognitive bias, compartmentalizations, blind spots. I mean, sometimes they'll talk about the different colored pills. Everyone's got their own definition, and it gets to a point where they start to become what I would call banners of virtue, where people start to attach their sense of identity to these labels. It's like, don't diss mgtow. Why not? Because you're dissing me. It's like, but so is that who you are? Like, if someone was to ask me what are my identity attributes, I have two basically. I am a man and I am a dad. There's nothing I can do that will ever change that. But when it comes to mgtow, this is a flexible concept. Some people are mgtow one day and then they change their mind. Sometimes they're red pill, then they're black pill. Sometimes they say they're red and black pill. Sometimes they change the acronym. So it's nothing really stable, and it's subjective. Like recently, from what I'm noticing, a lot of people are trying to distance themselves from the mgtow title because what they're claiming are a lot of grifters are now coming in, a lot of newbies with their own definitions. This is why it's like, this is the dangers of attaching your identity to a banner. If we look in the liberal, the left-wing side, we've got loads of other banners that people do it. They've got the eco warriors. You've got sort of the vegan banner. You got the, trying to think of it, Me Too movement, believe all women. These are all banners of virtue.
Yeah.
So they stand behind it, and this isn't really their true identity. And when we factor in again, like the lack of self-esteem, you can see why they would gravitate. They need a sense of identity from somewhere, so they gravitate to a herd mentality, and they become, despite saying they want their independence, their individuality, it's actually like a contradiction, because by merging as a collective, you become a nobody. You're no one.
Right. Awesome points.
See your other identities, and this is why you got the hive mind, or the
you are a collective. Yeah, you're the board.
You're right.
Hey, great points, man. Billy the Goat, man. I forgot how deep Billy goes, man. So good to hear your points, man. Excellent stuff. Let me quickly go to OJM, man. He was the last one to come on, man. Sorry, we have to go around. And then at this point, we're gonna, feel free to free flow in the conversation, jumping when you need to. But let's let OJM official Jesse McQuilkin say his point, and then we can go to the next one. Can you hear me? Just a bit louder, I think. Perfect.
Wait. I think my microphone isn't on the right setting.
Okay, no worries. But everyone in the building, man, please like the stream if you're enjoying this type of content. Again, this is Tuesday self-refinements, slightly different from the typical ones on Friday. Please like, enjoy it, comment. You can feel free to super chat if you are able to. Comment below the video when it's done streaming. Any sign of support is good. OJ, you with us? OJ, you with us? OJ, you there?
Hello.
Hello, yeah, now it's good.
Yeah, my mic, for some reason, my mic is not connecting to... Yeah, oh, it is now. It is calm.
It's good now, yeah, it sounds clear. It's clear.
All right.
So what's on your mind, bro? Again, apologies for keeping you, we have to go around.
That's all right. I just came back from celebrating my birthday, so...
Hey, happy birthday, man.
Yeah, my birthday was, well, technically yesterday, an hour ago. I'm 31 now, so
Hey, congratulations. Happy birthday. Good to hear.
thanks. But yeah, what was I was gonna say? Regarding MGTOW, lone wolf lifestyles.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really think it's realistic.
Mm.
A lot of these MGTOW dudes, and I was one of them like years ago,
Mhm.
right? As you know, it's not realistic. And there's one thing you got to look at, as no one really looks at it this way. If this lifestyle was really possible, and if this lifestyle was really realistic, the human race would be extinct in a few years, like in a good couple of generations, or it would just go extinct. But I think that we have a biological imperative to basically, obviously, procreate with the opposite sex or desire the opposite sex, right? If you're, and I'm talking about like, you know, as a heterosexual male, right? So I don't think it's realistic. I think there's a lot of people coping. I think there's a lot of the blame game going on, because what I noticed is I've never heard guys come up like from a talking point where, like, you know, when you hear them where a relationship you when you hear the average MGTOW or even a red pill type of dude, right, talk about relationships, right, and talks about the end of their relationship and why they become MGTOW, they never really talk about their own shortcomings.
Right, exactly.
Right. I rarely hear it. You rarely hear, like, for example, oh, she was being manipulative, but then you didn't walk away or something like that. You know, just giving an example, like, oh, she was being argumentative and you just sat there and you took it and you didn't walk out of the room. Do you know what I mean? It's just simple things like that, right? And what I feel is what I notice as well is a lot of guys that, I'm not saying all of them, a lot of these like type of dudes are capping. And let me explain what I mean by this.
Capping for what? Yeah.
What I mean by this is that a lot of them are not being deep down in themselves. They're not being honest and not basically saying to themselves, hey, I may not be the best version of myself at the moment. Right? Because, for example, me, right? If I know I'm not the best version of myself at the moment, I'm not top tier, right? I'm not gonna worry, or I'm not bothering entering the dating market anytime soon until I'm the best version on ourselves. Then I would say if these lone wolf dudes were their best, for example, they maxed out their looks, their grooming, they went to the gym, they worked on their personality, social skills, all of that stuff, right? To make themselves more attractive. And then all of a sudden they still didn't get any women, or they still didn't get any like relationships, and they still want to be, you know, that type, then I could understand why they would then say, you know what, let me go my own way, or let me become a lone wolf because I've done my best. And then if they've done their best, and then I'll say, you know what, cool. If you want to live that way, full cool, I understand. But if you've got dudes that are just, let's say, sloppy, or they're just overweight, or like they're just not on it. Well, I wouldn't just say overweight, but I'm just saying that they're not on it and they're not the best version of themselves. And they're complaining that they're not getting decent women, or they're trying to like get a passport and then just go off, even though they're not the best version of themselves.
Okay, I got pushback, just slight pushback to that. And
Yeah,
I'm
go
trying to
on.
be devil's advocate, man. I'm saying, because we hear that all the time, you need to be the best version. And I think shout out to King Richards, he talks about this idea a lot, that especially black guys, we have to be something else. We have to be Super Saiyan 4 to get an average relationship going. So like this, be your best. Like, is that not harsh? Like, is it not you know, aren't you supposed to be kind of growing in a relationship setting with the other person too? So no one is rarely their best. It's like you're always growing, right? Is that not true?
Yes, but there has to be a certain standard. Everyone's got standards. You know what I'm saying? Like, everyone's got standards. I'm not saying, hey, you got to be your best, but you got to be at least a decent standard. Like, the reality is some people don't want to accept in this world is, not all women, but a lot of women really want the guy that's already at the finishing line. The guy that is the best pack. Like, you're seeing it already. Like, you know, like dating, like you see in dating apps or even relationships now, like there's statistics out. Even though I don't really believe these statistics because it's like the pandemic
Mhm.
happened, where they
Mhm.
say men are having less sex than they ever had, or so on and so forth. Right? I don't think it's shortcomings of men. I do admit that there is a certain side of the woman where they're a bit picky and
Right.
they're not being realistic and they don't have standards, but have unrealistic standards. I've seen it. I've experienced it. For example, I went, I was the best version of myself at 24, right? Or a really good version of myself at 24. And I went on a date and this girl was already demanding that I buy her a Birkin bag on the first date. No cap.
Oh
I
my
remember
god!
this.
Oh my god! One
This
second! One
happened.
second! One second! 1 second!
Right. This happened when I went, and I'm just taking her to. I'm just having a casual date with her, at Weatherspoons in Croydon, and like she's just, I just ghosted her. I don't, to be honest, after that, I didn't even talk to her. I didn't even bother. Like after that, like for example, there's women out there that are like trying to tie a guy down. Like, like for example, a guy will tell, like there was another chick that said, "Oh, hey, look, I need to date. Oh, are you dating other guys?" I'm like, I mean, other women, and I'm like, that's not really your business because technically, I'm not in a relationship with you yet. You know what I mean? Like things like that, I can understand, but the reality is as well is sometimes not all black men, like for example, that you said with King Riches, and basically you can't be your best, right? In reality, sometimes like this is where the race pill kind of gets involved. There's a lot of dudes out there not dating within their own kind, and they think they can get like the bad bees outside of their own community, not realizing that sometimes you're gonna have to deal with your own before you get established to a certain level.
I think you're going somewhere which is, it's relative. So I appreciate that. Let's go around a bit and let's see if
Right.
people want to take that. But that's a
Bro,
great point, man. Let me quickly shout out Captain Tossin. 1 sec, with the £449, man. Captain Tossin, another regular showing support, man. So I really appreciate you, bro. I've modded you up, so good to have you here, man, Captain Tossin. But Thomas, what would you say to that?
What
If you
men
wanted to
doing
jump in.
IR?
Did you want to say something off the back of what OJM was just said?
I will come back to that, but I have two questions for you, Vulcan, and brother KB.
Go for it.
But let me start with brother KB. So, brother KB, would you say, coming back to your story, would you say your wife is a driven woman?
Well, first of all, I'd say yes. Also, I don't know if you're going to ask, but I would say she was definitely raised traditionally. I don't know if this makes a difference or not. You guys can maybe decide, but she does come from a 2-parent home.
Yep, that makes a lot of difference.
You know what? I question that now because I've just seen so many examples where people come from that too. I think what the problem is, especially with this so-called space, is that people try to put too much theory and make it so black and white that checkbox checklist. This is what is, and so someone who comes from this type of family, I'm not dismissing you. I'm just saying in general, from my point of view, I don't think that is an absolute guarantee that she's, pretty much like what Billy said, someone has their own, a person, no matter where they're born to, who they're born from, are going to formulate their own like view of the world, their own state of mind, and compound with who they hang around with in their life. They're gonna, the parents can only do so much.
Sorry, go on, bro. Go on.
Is that cool?
No, wait, hold on, bro. I just sorry, bro, Diego. This is I have one question for brother Falcon.
Yeah.
Now, since we're talking about modern women in the UK, do you think modern women in the UK can be saved, or are they forever lost?
It depends on what you mean by saved, and what do you mean by saved, first of all?
Can they be saved from themselves, from their liberal ways? Can they be saved?
Here's the thing. What I witness now, and I know what you're saying. I've not what you've been saying, but what I witness, what we should, I think, pay attention to, depending on circles where you are and who you're around with, is that I think there is a growing contingent of women who are starting to very much oppose this quote unquote liberalism that we talk about. Well, some people will say, you know, that's a chameleon, oh, don't, you know, this and that. But I think that there is an understanding to this fact. I don't think women are so naive, like especially Western women, like with all the information they have at their fingertips. I don't think they're so naive to just think that, or to just believe that the trajectory of, you know, career first, especially if they were valuing family as a young adult or girl, you know, career first and going down that road. Essentially, I don't think a lot of, you know, all women are that naive. I think there's a number of women out there who are trying to have countermeasures to that thought process. So, I mean, it's a vague question with can to be saved. And again, obviously, not every woman is going to act in a certain way. That's first of all. But I think, generally speaking, there is, you know, a group of women. I don't know how large or how small that are cognizant and they are aware of society's issues. It's not just men. That's what I truly believe.
But here's the thing, bro.
I could answer that.
Yeah, let me know when I can speak.
No worries, no worries, brother.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can I
Yeah,
ask a
let everyone have that.
But hold on, bro. Hold on. The thing is, I hear what you're saying, brother Vulcan, but it's only going to get worse.
What am I saying? Firstly, just please reconfirm what I'm saying.
You're saying that there's a certain number of women who acknowledge, yes, there is something wrong in the West where women they don't want to embrace their traditional roles as a woman, so they're seeing that women don't want to be married, so they have identified that as an issue. So these type of women, they've identified that as an issue and they're opposing that. I hear what you're saying, bro. Believe me, I hear what you're saying. I've seen these type of women like Just Pearly Things and Chantel Simmons.
Okay, but with the okay. I just need to be respectful to everyone because I know we're going on a one-on-one. But I just want to say that with content creators, you have to understand, man. A lot of content creators have their own agenda. A lot of, you don't know. A lot of people can just say whatever to just get the views, get all of that. You know, it's very easy for someone. And you know what? It's funny that you mentioned this content creator because I think one of her videos came up today, and I think someone was talking about. I think there was a single mother saying that her son had 16 kids, and then they'll say that, oh, it's the woman's fault because of all the contraception. And I was like, no, I'm sorry, man. Like a guy who goes out there knowingly, willingly, you know, creates 16 children, and you don't want to say no, it's the guy doesn't have responsibility in that. I can't accept that.
I mean, either, bro.
Because I think, and at the end of the day, that's just capped from the content creator. Like for them to just, you know, you can see that, you know, it's no disrespect to the content creator. I see she's collabing and all.
No, bro. I think she's sus. I think she's sus. I agree with what Brother KB said. She's very she has an agenda. She claims she's a. You see, this is the reason why I can't take these women seriously. They say we're against liberalism, we're against feminism. Okay, cool. Okay. You claim you're conservative. Where's your results?
Okay. Mic drop, bro. Mic drop. Let's take it around. I hear that.
I got something to say, but I'll let the other. I think it's Diego that wants to speak.
Okay. Yes. I think Diego, OJM. I think Don Osmond wanted to pop in, and anyone else. But Thomas, we have to go around on this one, okay? Because I know it's getting heated a little bit. But Diego, what's in your mind?
Well, there's a few things I think that came to mind. I'm probably not going to remember most of them, but I'll do my best here. So I think, was it OJM made reference to people trying to get women that are above their pay grade. But I think it has to work both ways. Some guys are actually going for women below their pay grade. I'll hold my hands up about that. I was all thinking about black. And it's not necessarily about not having a black woman, but I know that from my experiences now that I wasn't in the same class bracket. So if I'm hearing stuff like, why don't you talk like this? You should talk like that, right? Ultimately, that's because we're unequally yoked. and that black skin in itself and Big Nyash, assuming she has one, ain't gonna cut it. It's not enough glue for the shit to gain traction. So I think it's very important to sort of go both ways, because some of the guys in these spaces, they're not all broke. They're not all guys that are broke. They're not all guys, you understand? It's just a case of perhaps they're looking for some solutions. And there's a spectrum. Not everybody in these spaces has the same view. I think that's very important. I think the most important thing is to keep in mind that it's about ultimately what makes sense as the best solution. As you said, Falcon, a few other people on the panel, there are definitely people in these spaces that have an agenda to push. And even, for example, as you said, there's some people that are fake. They are in relationships. They've been exposed as being in relationships. So their whole kind of persona, online persona, is complete lies. And then there's even people who will be saying, for example, free agent lifestyle. And I'm not saying that there may not be aspects to actually glean from them in isolation, but if the person's divorced, then they're not really in a position to tell somebody who hasn't been married to basically live a free agent lifestyle. So anybody that wants to make of that what they will ultimately, because
that's another
Diego,
bone of contention. That's another bone of contention. People who have kids, who have kids and are saying don't have kids to younger men, don't have kids. This is why I shouldn't have kids. They've got their kids and they're getting whatever out of them, love and whatever, but they're coaching men to not have kids. Well, surely that
and then when said person was put on the spot as to why he's the very thing that both you and KB Jones just said now, he said that, oh, there's too many people in the world anyway, so why do you want to have kids? The US is like this, and some guys were very malleable to that and just went along with it. And this is why it's very important for Filter to to approach these this content or these different pieces of content with Filter. I mean, it's ironic because there's a lot made of optimum manhood, you understand, but by someone taking all their cues from a particular content creator or from a pantheon of content creators without any independent thought, they're actually achieving the very opposite, because you're letting somebody else to rationalize your life path, if you will, but you're supposed to be a man at the same time and actually be a lone wolf. How can you be a lone wolf when you're dependent on other people to tell you verbatim how to live your life? It defeats the very idea of that. Am I making sense?
100,
so you're not a lone wolf if you're reliant on someone else's content as your North Star. It's impossible. What you are is you're part of a virtual drip feed. You understand? You're part of a drip feed community, and you basically have what I would say is almost like a counterfeit kind of setting of lone wolfness, or if that word exists. You understand?
Hey, great points, man. Great points. I have to do this. I have to do this.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Great point.
So yeah, man, I'm nearly done. Just I think there's a couple of other things that came to mind. I think someone mentioned something about not complaining about women and actually looking introspectively, and I do think that there's a point there. I would argue that whereas there are content creators that also evade accountability, much like the women that they criticize, I would also say that there are others that don't get enough attention that actually do own their failings or their shortcomings retrospectively. Do you understand? There are guys that at the end of the day, look, put it like this, I won't call myself red pill, but there are certain, I would say, truisms which once you step outside of, in quote, blue pill conditioning, and you actually start thinking for yourself, men start to converge on certain practical realities, right? And the thing about red flags, I'm all for taking accountability. Where I've had failed relationships, I'll hold my hands up and say, yeah, I had failed relationships with this, that, and the other. I have nothing to hide in that respect. But hindsight's 2020. And I tend to find that it's very important to make the distinction between, like I said, looking in your rearview mirror and seeing where you could have improved, right? But then also kind of acknowledging where you saw things and look the other way, because I think sometimes people tend to conflate both. They're not the same, because at the end of the day, when you approach something, it's not always easy to approach something with a positive mindset, but also try to be balanced. And invariably, there is going to be some element of confirmation bias. Did you get my point? Some people miss out on relationships because they were too conservative. When I say too conservative, I'm not talking about like Thomas's idea of conservative. I'm just talking about where they're too tentative. You understand? With respect to, their in and ahhing. A bit like, not too dissimilar to women who see what appears to be a great man. They've given them enough time to actually gauge the measure of the man's character, but they keep on looking for a reason not to actually, close the deal, if you will. So it's a balance. Put it like this: no one's going to make a perfect decision. There's no such thing as a guarantee. So whatever approach any of us take, those that were in the MGTOW space or some of the black pill or whatever it is, and they now start migrating to more of a moderate position, as long as they appreciate that there's no guarantees and you just look to make the best decision with what resources you have, that's the most important thing. Whether that's going to be here, whether that's going to be elsewhere, I don't really think that there's enough of a source of, in quote, traditional women. I think that at best what will happen is you have women that have been exposed to modernity, the prevailing culture, liberal culture, but also have some traditional traits and inclinations. Those, do you understand? Those women that are a bit more practical and actually have an eye on the future and not so fixated on the here and the now. And very, very lastly, you made a very good point earlier about a woman who's from a two-parent household. That surely can be an indicator and a measure of her coming from a stable background with a healthy worldview as it relates to the value of men. But then at the same time, as you said, there are some women, and I've seen it several times, they may come from a well-adjusted background. They've got parents that did their best, loving parents, not just loving towards that woman in question, but even loving amongst themselves, as a lot of black women in the West, like say, loving up on each other. But this girl will have a friendship circle where she's the only one that comes from a stable background, right? And she will now be trying to emulate the behavior of her friends who may come from dysfunctional backgrounds. And so she'll now go out and happily be like a single parent, men ain't shit, rat-a-ta, rat-a-ta. And the irony you'll find is that the women that are her friends that are from those kind of broken backgrounds, given the opportunity, would actually exchange places. So there's a lot of things that work. They're vicariously dysfunctional.
Great point, man. Great points. I'm hearing an echo. I think, okay, that's cool. OJM, I think you wanted to jump in.
Yeah. I was gonna, but Thomas is gone. I was gonna answer the question regarding if modern women could be saved, and I pretty much got the answer to that.
Sure, go for it.
But it's all dependent on if that modern woman is cooperative, right? I'll say there's two major ingredients to so-called save. When it's not really saving, it's just guidance, in my opinion. So you just guide them the right way, right? I would say it's masculinity, one, and basically guidance, which is two, right? And cooperation, right? Well, cooperation and guidance kind of intertwine with each other. But basically, I've helped like let's say modern women, right? Women that were, let's say, that went astray, right? By explaining certain things to them and explaining, hey, look, this is where you're going wrong. Here's the evidence and here's the proof to show where it is. And they listened and they reaped the benefits of it. Now, I'm not saying all women are going to be like that. But what I'm saying is if there's a woman that's willing to listen, right, willing to be cooperative, and you're a man who's masculine, that stays in this masculine frame, because these women are going to test you, right? And you can guide them if they want, right? Or they could just rub off you, like based off how you if you are on the right path, right? Then yeah, you can so-called save them, because I've seen
but one pushback to that. I don't know why I'm
Oh.
pushing back to you, but it's nothing personal to you, okay? But it's just that the thing is about that is that surely adult woman, should know what is the right thing for her. So
Right.
The biggest rebuttal that someone will pose to that is that women already know, quote unquote, women already know what is the right thing to do, and they've chosen
I wouldn't say
what
so.
they want to do rather than to be on someone else's program and to be this loving home home bearer and all of that traditional stuff.
Right. I get what you're saying, but the thing is that's the ideal person that would know the right between wrong. If you don't have a strong family unit and you don't have the right parents in the home, it doesn't matter what age you're at. Sometimes there's still people who don't know right between wrong. Like, for example, I've been a youth worker, right? I've been a youth worker, and I've worked with women, I've worked with men, right? Who are, let's say, younger than I am, right? And they're adults, right? They still didn't know certain things, not all, but certain things in regards of what is wrong and right. Some people need guidance. Some people need mentors, right? Some people sometimes, because they've been around so much dysfunction, that sometimes they will feel they just feel that certain things are normal. Like I give you an example, right? I know a dude, when I'm not gonna say his name for confidentiality reasons. I know a dude that would binge eat and eat like a lot of food. Like when I mean a lot of food, like food for 4, food for 5, or whatever. And that person would think that is normal because they didn't have a family that taught them healthy ways of eating, right? And that had to be coached in.
I get that. But
Right.
my thing is that surely an adult who, we have the internet, we can do a search, should know what is a healthy amount of food to eat, for example. Like
Obviously.
you're talking about coming from dysfunction. Like many of us can't, like I've been open, a lot of my upbringing has been dysfunctional. But as I've grown up, I firstly rejected a lot of things. I've distanced myself with certain friends who will take me down a certain road. Even family have to distance them, to create my own path and do my own thing, and to be able to do what I'm doing today. So it's like people surely they have agency over their own behavior and actions in the world.
That's why I do say cooperation as well plays a part, and guidance. But I will say that, isn't there people in your life as you got older that had a major part in what molded you to be what you are?
To be 100% honest, not a lot, if any.
Well,
to be honest,
not a lot.
Well, I could say not a lot. To be honest,
not a lot is still something.
It's my activity. So I could say, I don't know, martial arts. So I guess my Sarbon Nim, my so-called master, and my coach, maybe he has an effect, but it wasn't life. It wasn't particular life things. It was simply just to do the sport. You learn certain things from doing certain things, right?
Right.
But it was off my own agency that I went to do the sport to get better.
Fair enough. Maybe sometimes people don't realize, that they're like, people make a bigger impact. They just don't realize it, or they just don't recognize it. But you never know. But I will also say, like, moving on from like the modern woman question as well, is I can't remember who was this, but people are right. Like, certain content creators have certain agendas, right? I've seen it. I've seen through a lot of people's agendas, even big YouTubers' agendas, who you think that is the best, like, or who are meant to be not the best, but conservative, or are for men or whatever. Like, for example, just Pearly Things, right? I like her content, don't get me wrong, but I have seen certain holes, like the one you pointed out about the kid that had 15 children, right? I think it's both people to blame. You can't just, this is what I'm talking about regarding these type of mgtow spaces, red pill spaces, or whatever they call it. Like, there's a bias. It's not balanced. Like, for example, here, for instance, right? Another example that I saw was absolutely shocking. I saw another video of just Pearly Things where there was a black guy that was talking about boundaries, and he was saying, and he basically said that he's not going to take certain things from women or boundaries, and then they called that black man feminine for saying that. I don't know if you've seen that video, but when I saw that, I was like, you got to like, this is why I say, when it, like, again, you have to have your independent thought, and you have to do the research. Don't always take everything for what they say. For example, I'll give you another example. Do you know that black men date out more than any other race or group of ethnicity group?
Where?
In the country, in
England. The UK? Is
yes.
that truth? Is there a stat that proves that?
Caribbean and Africa, is the difference between the two.
Is there a stat that proves that? If there is a stat, because I'm looking for the statistics. If there is an up-to-date stats that prove that this year or last year,
I'll show you what. But there's a video by White Matters. He was debunking what I think is one of King.
I'm sorry, like I've probably seen that video, but that was, again, when we say something like that, we need to make sure that is 100% on the money and it's accurate, because
I think it is, because it's from the ONS.
So statistics.
Yeah, statistics.
But the thing about the statistics is that we had a census last year and they're not out. So I think if women
we'll wait until then,
it's probably 2011 that he was using. And like Diego said, there is distinction. So do you mean black, Caribbean, British, or Black African British?
So British African guys is 8 out of 10 based on the most recent data. I would be very surprised if it's literally done like a 180. So it is important because the African side is more of a recent arrival. Caribbean one have in most cases a third generation at least, some cases 4 generations in. So it's very, very, very important to draw that distinction. Because I mean, again, a lot of this is not just to say it's very easy for so-called Black people to just generalize all Black people and not realize they have more in common with white people when they do that. If you really want a granular picture, you got to be more specific.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Yeah, sorry. OJM, if you're finished with your points, that's cool. I think Don Osman wanted to come in.
Yeah. Yes, with regards to the high value, man, topic and all that, I find it quite interesting that you have, some modern women that would talk about it, and to me, it's kind of hypocrisy, to be honest. It's hypocrisy. The reason why I'm saying it's hypocrisy is that, the modern woman would say, a modern woman would say that, I wouldn't submit to a man who earns like the same amount or probably below her, right? But she would submit to a guy that's earning a lot of money. But the question is that why would a high value man pick a modern woman? That's something
Who would a so-called
would pick a so-called modern woman, right? You know what I mean?
You said the high value man would not pick a modern woman. So
yeah, but I'm just thinking to myself, why would he? Because it wouldn't benefit him, like to some extent, unless
So I'm asking, who would the so-called high value man pick if it's not a modern woman?
It would probably be a woman with high values, right? Conservative, with values that are that is compatible to to an extent where she's a woman who's has a mother figure and and has values that are aligned to him, right?
Right.
And that could sustain a long relationship, something like that. But I'm just, when I hear about this type of, claims about, certain women saying that and all that, I'm thinking to myself, if I was a man that earned a lot of money, I wouldn't be choosing a woman, a feminist.
Right. Okay. Fair point. Fair point.
Yeah.
Fair point.
And it's counterintuitive because, a high value man will pick a woman that's not a feminist, right? So because the high value man would know, that if he picks the feminist, then he's probably going to be gambling a lot of money. He's going to lose out, like, to some extent.
Fair point. Fair point.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've gone past the 3 hour mark, so I'm going to ask for closing thoughts, if that's okay. So anyone wants to go on with closing thoughts with regards to this topic or anything they want to add to this point?
I've got 2 points I'd like to make, if I may.
Sure, Billy.
Thomas is not here, but it's answering his. Can we save them? Presumably, he's talking about like a sort of mentally ill type of woman. From their point of view, there's nothing wrong with them. Their coping strategy, the way they're going about life, navigating, is perfectly hunky dory. The problem is not them. The problem is you for not complying. So there's that point of view, and also to self-reflect is required. And if they are trying to deflect accountability and responsibility in particular, they're trying to offload that to you to do for them as a caretaker, then they're never going to. What you're asking them to do is to psychologically commit suicide. So that's no. So forget it. You can't cure them. This is the cure as far as they're concerned.
Right.
That's why they're doing the things that they're doing. Now, the other point I want to make is this idea of the idolization of a woman. Like, sometimes we'll joke about how there are no unicorns, but in a double standard kind of way, they'll complain about women, not realizing that indirectly what they're talking about is the idolized woman, their preference, if they have the choice, sort of all the luxury. Now, an idealization in itself is a distorted view. So if you're going around with this perfected mindset of what a woman should be like, you are somewhat delusional. You are also insulting that woman and insulting yourself at the same time, because what you're saying is that you cannot accept her with imperfections. You will only accept her if she's basically a unicorn. you yourself are admitting that, not you personally, I mean like figuratively speaking, which you're saying doesn't exist, but only in the realm of fantasy. So these people who are talking about the idealized woman do not realize they are confessing that they have a fantastical mindset. They're very imaginative, and it's a double standard. So I don't know.
So you have to look beyond their obesity.
One sec, Donaldsman. That was a closing thought. But Billy the Goat, I appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you very much. I'm going to say good night and take care and catch you all later.
Yeah, same to you, man. Good to have you as always, and take care. Who wants to go next? Closing thoughts? Was it you, Osman?
I was going to say that, in regards to the accepting, like certain women say you have to accept me and all that, and regardless, it's usually based on obesity and certain lifestyle choices. That to some extent is troubling. But yeah, I think I find it quite interesting that women would say that a man, when it comes to men, it's usually frowned upon. But yeah, it's just a bit, it's mind-boggling, to be honest.
Right, Donaldsman, good to have you on as always, man. We look forward to seeing you in the future.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, man. Who wants to go next with closing thoughts?
I'll go next.
Yeah, go for it, KG.
Yeah, I was just gonna. Cool, bro. I was just gonna say in terms of this mgtow thing, like I know it is, like I said, it is, and we can all see it's rough out here, but it's not. I'm gonna do the not all thing. There are exceptions, and obviously that unicorn thing was brought up, and I think I agree with that. There is a slight unspoken sort of lenience to wanting the perfect woman or as close to as, which doesn't exist. But there are some out there. I mean, look, some of us are lucky, and I count myself as lucky to have been with someone for such a long time as well. So they are out there as well. And I think also as well, I would say, because I was going to say this earlier, but never got a chance to. But in terms of like the whole sort of mgtow sort of movement, one thing I'll say I really like, well, I found that I dislike is that because if we're going to listen to these complaints about women from men, right, you would think that most, if not all, these men want to be in some sort of relationship, if not or get married. But if we're honest, we know that's not completely true, because not all of the men want to do that. I don't like when it's kind of mixed in with the men that just want to have like hookups and stuff, and they kind of like hide behind the voices of people that actually want to have relationships. I don't really like that. If you want to, if you're aiming for an actual relationship with a woman, then okay, I can kind of see your point. But if you're just looking to have hookups, you're just looking to smash, then you're gonna have to play the game as the dice is rolling it, to be honest, because I don't think the two should be conflated. That's what I was gonna say, really. I mean,
right,
yeah.
Man. Right, KB Jones, man, always a pleasure having you on, man.
Thank you, bro. Good night to everyone. See you later.
Have a good night. Good to see you. Who wants to go next with closing thoughts?
Yeah, I'll go. This one is pretty short. Yeah, thanks for having me on the platform. I would have came on earlier if it wasn't for my birthday. So yeah. So
once again, man, happy birthday, man. Good to hear that. Another year on the docket.
Thank you very much. Anyway, take care.
Yeah, see you soon, man. Hope to see you in the next round. And last but not least, Diego, what's your closing thoughts on this whole matter?
Yeah, man, great stream. Of course, relationships invariably we're going to come up, but the reality of relationships and life, ultimately is about people. So, good stream. Just a few things real quickly. Osman, is it Don Osman? He got me thinking when he said, he name dropped high value men, and if I may, I just want to say that people can either tend to forget, or they're just not aware that high value man was always a small demographic. It wasn't supposed to be the barometer or the benchmark for all men or black men. It was literally just a certain few people. But at the end of the day, guys want to either be a high value man or they want to be vicariously a high value man, and the women want them. I would say, I'd say by extension, I think that was revealing that, I don't want to say 80-20 rule, but the fact that high value man became like the barometer, and you have women saying 100 grand a year is not even enough, tells you that you know, whatever people want to admit, by and large, the guys that do have the resources are, going to have especially if it comes to hooking up and, nebulous relations, they're going to have the most play. It is what it is. I think OGM made an interesting point about getting your money up and being perfect, but the reality is there's no time which is ever perfect. Perfection's overrated, and you wait for the perfect time, it will never come. If you get so caught up and just focusing on your hustle, you're almost playing catch up and trying to understand how much the dating landscape has changed. A lot of people who have done that, they literally feel like a fish out of water trying to make sense of things. Hence why stuff like the red pills, so not red pills, sorry, the mgtow spaces might actually appeal to them, because it's like not just a rejection, it's almost like a safe haven. I don't know if it was OGM or somebody else, but they said that if everybody was to go mgtow, then there'd be no more people to populate the earth. But the reality is mgtow was, at least its popularization was a response or reaction to the dating landscape, not as some kind of isolated or standalone phenomenon. You get my point? So it's very important to, contextualize that, man. You're going to say something?
No, I'm just, if that's your closing thought, is that yeah,
go on. Sorry, you're going to say? The last thing I'm just going to say real quickly is that, anyone that's hearing this that might be extreme, even if you're not going to get married, it's probably not healthy to, just be monk for monk's sake. Monk's sake, as you said, should be for a purpose. It should be fixed term. If you're like, as you said, if you're getting ready for, like a certain kind of physical exertion that, you'd have with being like in a martial arts, competitive like fixture, right? Or if you're trying to like bang out some work and sex is a big distraction, but I just don't think it should be a permanent thing. And so people shouldn't exchange one form of anxiety for another. It's very easy to go from the anxiety of being frustrated with the dating landscape into going into the whole kind of mgtow space where you're doing your best to shoehorn yourself into a certain kind of identity, but you know that you're not fully there. So the constant, or should I say the common denominator, is anxiety. Am I making sense? You're just exchanging one form for another. So literally going from one extreme to the next.
I hear that, man.
I'm done.
yeah. But as always, man, good to have you on. Yeah, full of information. I hope this stream, everyone in the chat, you appreciate this type of stream. I needed to go back to the whole self-improvement, self-refinement angle. So expect that for the Tuesdays. Salute to Diego Efe, everyone who came up on the panel, said their piece and contributed. I appreciate that. Everyone who liked the video, said their piece in the live chat, donated with a super chat. I appreciate all of you because you keep this thing going. So yeah, so expect the next live stream on Thursday, as I'll be traveling on Friday. I'll make content of that travel as well, so look out for that. But for now, it's your man Falcon Blizzard out, and I just want to say peace.
Peace, bro. Peace, everyone.
Peace.